President, Taai. Mr. Taai was already given his address, the Honorary Secretary General. We have Sriram Patel, who's the Honorary Treasurer. I have our Senior MC member here, Mr. Kulvinder Kohli. Ji, please come here. We have Dr. Murugesan. We have Mr. Venkatachalam. And integral part of Travel Agents Association of India. Wiit is truly a social initiative of Taai with support from its 20 region chapters from across the country, which acts as a catalyst for a brighter future. Wiit's core objective is to involve women in the vast spread and strong value chain of tourism, to join hands to empower the women of India, to become entrepreneurs in their own rights. And especially after the pandemic, I think there's a huge job losses where the women are concerned, and the work from home is now the future. And this is going to become a very integral part, the way we train and skill the women going forward, because I think women should be trained much more to handle when they are working from home. And believe you me, work from home is going to be staying, so we need to actually indulge in that. So we at Taai aim to leverage the Indian travel, tourism and hospitality industry to empower women with the opportunity to fulfill their economic and individual potential while growing the sector. We intend to act as a facilitator. Ministry of Tourism under the leadership of the then Honorable Minister Shri Platsan Patelji and the team, and Rupinder was a very integral part of that. I would like to share some thoughts on women empowerment and employment globally and India before I move on. According to the latest report by WTTC, the female share of employment in tourism in India accounts for 12.1%. It is evident from the statistics that women are a vital aspect of the tourism industry. A sector that is highly unorganized is yet being managed exceptionally well. And we at Wiit aim to change the sector to organized so that women's contribution can be brought to the limelight. In a joint report of countries with UN World Tourism Organization, it's clearly highlighted that the majority of the tourism workforce worldwide is female, which is 54% of people employed in tourism are much more than any other compared in any other industry. However, women in tourism earn 14.7% less than men. That is surely another aspect we feel that should be deliberated upon. If the contribution is similar, then why the wage gap? Women in tourism businesses majorly contribute under 3 categories, which I have noticed in my 40 years in this industry. Entrepreneurship. These are those women who moved forward and broke the taboo that women can't run businesses, especially in the tourism sector. We see women owning travel agencies, they are tour operators. A report by UNWTO, there are many countries in the world where more than 70% of the business owners in the tourism sector are women, be it Asia, Middle East or the Americas. You will come across women managing businesses well. Employment is the second aspect, and in terms of employment, we take an example of the hospitality sector. Around 60 to 70% of the workforce is women. International Labour Organization in their various reports have mentioned that. In India, it is but common knowledge that the women are raised, trained for hospitality and inherit the huge skills from the mothers and grandmothers. And our country itself believes in Atati Deva Bhava. Only on that, we also are very apt at multi-skilling today, which is another asset I think is going to be here for the future of generations. Leadership, which is the third part of the industry. The best example is our today's panelists, which we've got all here to be speaking to us and sharing their experiences of life. They have all done remarkably well in their fields and are now the most sought after leaders, politicians, tourism, in education, and other domains of the entire varied industries. So where is the gap? There's something we need to look into and resolve the issues. I'm humbled, like HSG said, to hold multiple positions. I'm the president of the Travel Agents Association of India, which is the oldest nodal body and the largest and the premier association, which I always believe in. And I'm also the chairperson of Tourism and Hospitality Skill Council, THSC, where we have our CEO, Mr. Rajan Bahadur, sitting here also. We have I'm also the vice chairperson of Wiit, which is an organization, it's a federation of 10 associations and the most important associations of this country. So in THSC, I would like to just say that, and Mr. Rao himself has been a very integral part of that. We worked very closely together. And it's the skilling sector of tourism and hospitality under the aegis of Ministry of Skill Development Entrepreneurship. We've been working diligently with a wonderful team headed by, of course, I said Rajan, who is present here. Just the emphasis that THSC has 400 training centers and over 100 universities across India. We have already trained more than 14 lakh people since inception. 42% of the trainees have been women. And we have been in different heads of the tourism, travel and hospitality sector. We also have even apprenticeship programs and ensure placement of certified youths through their 2,500 plus industry partners which we have. THSC is truly a game changer. During COVID, despite all training centers closed, we did some mobile app blended courses and we have many success stories of employment. We recently did a hawkers training in the northeast of Delhi under the leadership of the mayor from northeast. And we trained approximately 200 people there who could set up their hawkers market, and we've also been able to provide some e-cards to them going forward. So there are a lot of things that we, as I would say that I as the president of Taai, have been doing with THSC, and so that we can bring out our strengths to deliver. To go further, we need to invest, and our caption says it all. Mission with a vision. To evolve women's empowerment of growth and success. To start with, that's the first. This conclave will focus on two very intriguing interactions with the most prominent speakers with in-depth knowledge and experience. The first session, Weaving Tales, would focus on tourism, and the second, Create Your Sunshine, on the skilling perspective. Both the sessions would deliberate on excelling and supporting the working women in travel, tourism and hospitality sector, and welcome many more to join in. I've always strongly felt that more the women in tourism, the safer the countries become. We need to encourage more and more women to become guides, drivers, create crafts, weave looms, and also come in the front as leaders. The conclave's focus is on both women and men, as we strongly believe there's a huge interdependence between both sexes, and we need each other's support together to be totally powered to coexist in this society. We certainly also need to start young, to teach each of them to respect each other. Before I end, I would like to say to all present, and especially the media and the Ministry of Tourism present here, to help us empower the women with more power. I have a huge dream, and so does Taai, work with me taking that forward, of training women to upliftment, to create craft markets, hawker street in India, and also educate them to bring in cleanliness and hygiene. Let us earmark, skill and deliver with your support, and we can make this vision a reality. Please help me do that. So without taking more time, let us deliberate two intrinsic topics during the first conclave with this. I would once again like to welcome all of you to this conclave and look forward to surely some very experiential, fruitful and enriching interactions, and let us together pave a path for the future which is sustainable with inclusiveness. I would just like to quote Malala here, who I always feel she speaks from her heart. She says, I raise up my voice, not so I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard. We cannot succeed with half of us held back. So let us work towards making others being heard. Thank you once again for being here and being the strength of Taai and Wiit. Thank you. Taking the opportunity that I am on the dais and already speaking, I'd like to now invite our man sitting in front of us who's worked very closely with me, encouraging and supporting me at THSC and now in the Ministry of Tourism. He is very experienced IAS officer of 1990 batch from Kerala cadre and has served on some key positions in a span of 30 years of his career. Back in 2014-15, he was appointed as the Secretary of Kerala Tourism. He has also served as the Chairman of Indian Tobacco Board, Director of Fisheries Department, and in Andhra Pradesh government as the Director of the Department of Tourism and Culture. Today, he, besides being the Managing Director of ITDC, and that's where I came to know him much more, he holds a very important chair of the Director General of Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. The man himself, Mr. K.V. Rao, please come and share the words of wisdom for your experience, life and tourism. Thank you.
Thank you, Jyotishi, for your warm introduction. Good morning, everybody. It looks like March 8th, then 5th May. So many gentle ladies and gentlemen, and respected members of Taai. It gives me great pleasure to be here, along with Rupinder, my dear colleague from Tourism Ministry. So whenever we go and whoever invites us for the functions and seminars and workshops on tourism, so we speak only about our hospitality sector, our travel agencies, tour operators and all. But today the subject is weaving the tales. So what tales, I was just discussing with my daughter last night, what are the tales about weaving about the woman? Important tales. And she said, Papa, you always bore me with all your Ramayana, Mahabharata stories. And then I thought, why should not I start by quoting Ramayana itself? Because, whatever it is there in our blood or in our psyche, whatever value system that has been imbibed, it is there in every place. That is culture and heritage of the society. It influences you a lot. Yesterday, the Honorable Prime Minister was in Germany and he was addressing the Indian diaspora. And he mentioned a very big point about tourism, which we'll discuss later. Then after he discussed, when he was talking about India, everybody said, Bharat Mata ki Jai, Bharat Mata ki Jai. So we don't hear anybody talking about Mother USA Zindabad or Mother England Zindabad. So we have given a stature of woman to this country, and we say whenever we address this country, we address as Mata. Kareshu Dashi, Karneshu Mantri, Bhojyeshu Mata, Seneshu Dhamma, Kshamaya Dharitri. So you are Kareshu Mantri, Bhojyeshu Mata, you are Seneshu Ramha, and Kshamaya Dharitri, patience. All these great qualities are attributed to women, they are not attributed to men. I am not saying that men are qualityless. But the kind of qualities that are given to you as Karneshu Mantri, when you are advising to somebody, you are advising as a minister. When you are the Kshamaya Dharitri, the kind of patience, what is the embodiment of patience? Who has the highest patience in this world? It is the Mother Earth which has the highest patience in this world. And you are attributed with this kind of qualities. So while you go through this Ramayana story, it has got, it is female-dominated epic right from Mandara. Many people, because thanks to the South Indian people, they watch too many movies. And fortunately, many movies are made on Ramayana, many movies are made on Mahabharata. We know each and every character of Ramayana and Mahabharata. In Delhi, whenever I talk about Ramayana, Mahabharata, Sanskrit, and everything, I come to Madras, how do you know about Ramayana? How do you know about this character? Fortunately for us, of course, Rama is from Ayodhya, Rama is from Uttar Pradesh, but fortunately for us, cinema industry, when it was growing, right from Raja Harishchandra, most of the movies are made by Telugu fellows and Tamilians and all, or the characters of the Mahabharata and Ramayana. So Mandara, so Mandara is the lady who was telling Kaikeyi that, see, your husband has given a promise to Kaikeyi, why don't you ask, why don't you ask? So she instigated Kaikeyi. There are some people like Mandara and Kaikeyi also, but we're not talking about them now. Okay. So after Kaikeyi said, has a very respect, like a typical bureaucrat who complies with the directions of higher authorities, Kaushalya told Rama, Putre, our husband, my husband has told me to convey this to you, that we have to go to forest for 14 years. So she was playing the role of a real wife. When husband tells her, she said, yes, I'll do. And he went there. And Urmila, then he thought, when Lakshmana was also going along with, I'm sorry, I'm going before I go to tourism. Tourism will always talk. But this, I thought I must start this by telling this because it's really interesting for me. To tell about women. Whenever I think about women, we talk about mothers-in-law. So then Lakshmana said, when brother is going, I want to go. All these mythologies, whether it's Greek mythology or Indian mythology, any mythology, the characters which we see, it's only the embodiment of certain qualities. Okay? So we have to learn those qualities. The good qualities we learn, they represent Hanuman, it represents power. Like that, when Lakshmana was going as a true brother, then his wife Urmila said, without Lakshmana I cannot survive. And God has given a boon to everybody in those days used to have boons. We don't have boons now. So Urmila slept for 14 years. She slept for 14 years. Then Sita, of course, they said when husband is going, Sita also came. Then another character is Mandodari. Mandodari advised Ravana. Ravan, if you touch Sita, you'll be burnt with flames. Mandodari was playing a true Karyashu Mantri to Ravana. He was advising. That's why we don't see anywhere any of the Ramayanas, Tulsi Ramayana, any of Ramayanas, where Ravana really tried to do something to Mata Sita Ma. So these are the characters which always, like childhood, you have been taught by mother, by grandparents and all. See, these are the characters who play a crucial role in Rama's thing. So Ramayana was, in fact, we have in South India, there is a lady called Mulla. Mulla Ramayana is very popular for us. I didn't read Tulsi Ramayana, but Mulla Ramayana we have read. And we used to have in my Janabit award a literary figure called Vishwanath Satyanarayana. He wrote Ramayana Kalpa-Vriksha. It's Kalpa-Vriksham. We complete the word with Ma. Vriksham, it becomes Vamsham. It becomes Vamsham. It's not Vamsh. In North India it is Vamsh. Sanskrit. So in Telugu it becomes Vamsham. So Ramayana Kalpa-Vriksham is what Vishwanath Satyanarayana has written, for which he got Jnanpith award also. So Mulla Ramayana, that's in the medieval history of Andhra Pradesh, it was written by a lady. So we have read that Ramayana, which is anyway. These are the important characters which are there, which always inspire us about women. So with this backdrop, whenever you see a lady besides that Mandara and Kaikeyi, other characters we see Sati Savitri, Draupadi, all ladies. But point is, they always suffered. Why I said this, it's not for a story to tell you, not a reading of the tale here. There is a suffering in this. Whether it's a Karyashu Mantri, you think Kaushalya was happy. She was not happy. Urmila was not happy. Mandodari was not happy. Sita was not happy. It's all suffered. So that suffering is what we have to see, that with that backdrop of suffering we should say that now this is the generation where that suffering should disappear. We should keep it aside. Then go for a new world with a new vision, where you continue to have those value systems. I'm not saying that you should discard those value systems of Sita and Urmila and Mandodari. No. Have those, but beyond that, you should grow and really empower yourselves within the constitutional benefits that are imparted to you, that are given to you. Okay. Now, then coming back to our tourism thing, Honorable Prime Minister, when he mentioned that, I felt very happy that he was talking about when everybody was in Bharat Mata Ki Jai. So then, as Jyoti was quoting some statistics about women empowerment and women force coming down. Women force, I was just going through the World Economic Forum's reports. European Union is 46.3% is what the women employment. In Latin America, it is 41.6%. In USA, it is 46.4%. Middle East, 17%. Even such a small country like Vietnam, it is 47%. India, it is very less, 20.5%. So, World Bank report again says that Switzerland has got 46% and Sweden 47%. All in the female labor force participation report, which is called as FLPPR, their 30.27% is 90. The women labor force in the world was in 1990 it was 27%, whereas now in 2019 it has gone down to 20.8%. Women force, when we were students in economics, we were reading Rosa Luxemburg, who wrote accumulation of capital. There are three capitals which were written: Das Kapital by Karl Marx, Rosa Luxemburg, who is a Marxist economist, wrote about accumulation of capital. Recently, Professor Piketty has written Capital. Of course, Professor Piketty also speaks about distribution of capital and all. But when he speaks, all of them speak about women labor force, how it should be enhanced. Of course, Rosa Luxemburg speaks about high elasticity of demand, and which is not relevant to you. When I thought about it, I thought I should mention it. Higher education, if you take the dropouts also, the enrollment is increasing in India. When the higher enrollment is happening in higher education, enrollment is going higher in higher education, then it should lead to the employment. Whether this employment in the teaching faculty, whether it is entrepreneurship, or whether it is the service sector, different sectors, it has to go. Where is it happening? Why it is not? Maybe because of this COVID last 2 years, it has really suffered a lot. But few entrepreneurs who have really come last 2 years. The e-commerce has become very big. This NYKAE, my daughter gets, my wife brings all these cosmetics. Everything is from e-commerce. She is from Kerala, Palguni Nair, this is Nair company. She is a lady. I mean, she started the whole thing. And travel, Mrs. Srivastava is there. She started online portal. So many women entrepreneurs have taken up in a very big way in the travel and tourism. And we also, Honorable Prime Minister, when he mentions about Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao, this is not an ordinary slogan. It is a very, very big slogan which society has to take it very seriously and take it forward. If your daughter, my daughter, she studied MBA, and I said, you become an entrepreneur. She said, Papa, I want to become an entrepreneur. I said, yes, you should. So she's starting her own startup. Not in tourism, but in textiles. So when you talk about the service sector in tourism, the service sector is other than aviation and all. Textile is a very major sector. When all these tourists, whether domestic or international, they buy saris, they buy dresses. So textile makes, who is running this service related to textiles? It is women entrepreneurs, women workers, who are doing it in every major tourist destination across the globe. You go to different countries, I'm sure, I don't want to quote them. So all of you have traveled the world, who are the people who are there in the gift shops, in the souvenir shops. It's a women who are involved in this. So homestay is another place. When we went to, all of us went there, and our Honorable Minister, Secretary Sir, we go to different places like Leh, Ladakh, Srinagar, Northeast Guwahati. So everywhere ministers and the industry, travel agents they say that we need more homestays there. Because you can't have 5-star properties in Srinagar, you can't have 5-star properties in Leh, Ladakh, in ecologically sensitive areas. There you can have only homestays. So who is running these homestays? It is women who is running these homestays. They are the ambassadors. They have to convey the value systems to them, weave the stories of whether Ramayana or Mahabharata or any other religion. They have good stories to tell, because always whoever carries as a tourist, they carry stories. They love to carry stories along with their sovereigns, isn't it? When they go back, they tell these people around about good stories about the place which they have visited, which we also do. So women play very crucial role in propagating homestay. Entrepreneurship also in now online services, providing online services, travel agencies, tour operators. I'm really happy to see so many women entrepreneurs in tourism sector. We would love to have more support also Every state government is extending different support, different service sectors related to tourism. We are also coming out with a new tourism policy, in which we are having a chapter on this skill development through our agencies, our ministries, organizations. We also would like to concentrate more on the skill development aspect of women. For any support, we are here. Kindly contact us, and we are ready. Thank you so much.
We believe in sustainability, so we got. And I think it was wonderful to start our session of Weaving Tales with a tale which actually belongs to India. And we are very proud of having such rich heritage and culture. And I can see Dr. Navina smiling at me when I talk about heritage and culture. Without, we're already running late, I think we'll start our first session, which is Weaving Tales, which is for all of us gathered here today to learn from each other's experiences on how a woman who's a very important part of society. And I would go a step further by saying, not only a part, but the creator of humankind. Why then are they lacking in feeling or of being empowered? And what stops them, still even in the 20th century? Where we do have examples of some firsts of our country, as women who achieved it all. Women like Kalpana Chawla who reached the moon, or Bachendri Pal who climbed Mount Everest, or Avni Chaturvedi who flew the fighter jet solo, and we have women in the army, the navy, and everywhere today. But still, the women of this country are hesitant to travel alone. They are hesitant to join the tourism industries as entrepreneurs. So this sector is a gold mine of opportunities with its vast value chain. And like Mr. Rao said, it doesn't only start at traveling or tourism or a travel agency. It goes much further. So we need to have more women to connect, because I think we women need to connect more, because it's all about people to people. I always say tourism is about people to people. We need to, on this platform, explore and talk about growth and sustainability, progress and the challenges faced by the tourism sectors, and request you to lead the talks by each one of you retrospecting and sharing. And I have with me a vast vault of knowledge whom I'm going to invite on the stage. So starting, can I have Mr. Rupinder Barar, please? Rupinder, as we very fondly call her, and we don't want to put her in the category of always saying Miss Barar. So I think, and she's been the face and a friend of the industry. She's also she's from the 1990 batch of Indian Revenue Services. She's the Additional Director General, Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. Prior to this, she was serving the Commissioner of Income Tax and member of the DISP Disputes and Resolution Panel, looking into the transfer pricing and international taxes issues in Mumbai. And actually, we still chew her brains for all the taxes. And I think she's the face of the Finance Ministry also, when we want ourselves also to understand about a lot about taxes. So it's like me calling her up at 9 and saying, hey, can you tell me what is this all about? So I think she's been a huge support strength. I don't want to get too much into telling about the past, because I think you all want to hear it from her. And she's been the face not only of the tourism industry, but Dekho Apna Desh, which has been a wonderful initiative of tourism. I think she's done a wonderful job, and at one time in the lockdown, when we were just struggling to survive, Dekho Apna Desh really brought a lot of color, a lot of interest, and a lot of culture back into our homes itself. So I think that is what we got to know about India, things which even I didn't know. So that's it. Second, I'd like to invite Janvi Phukan. Janvi is I think I have got friends here, so it goes without saying that friends are what we women are, and we stand for each other. She's an entrepreneur of over 3 decades. She has her own company where I don't know how many awards she's got. She's the most tourism winning companies of Northeast. She's also been a recipient of the Indian National Tourism Awards, and where I became very close to her was when she became the president of Wiki Flow, and we started working a lot together, and we too took the initiative of signing this MOE with Ministry of Tourism. She's also the founder of Lion Looms, and that's what brings her here today to talk about the looms. Because how tourism, like I said, is a huge value chain, and it doesn't start at being a ticketing person in the travel industry or only doing sales, doing marketing. There is a huge value chain which we need to bring back into this country to say we are part of tourism. Like Mr. Rao said, we need to tell stories about ourselves, we need to tell stories about our country, and that is why we are here. She's also the National Advisor of the Northeast region from the Deaf Council of India. She's been conferred the doctorate letters honoris causa by Assam Downtown University in 2018. Third, I'd like to invite a very prominent person of the industry again, Dr. Navina Jaffa. Navina Jaffa is not only a writer, a scholar on cultural heritage. Culture and development is in her blood, I think, and she just lives that life. And her development, she's an academician and performing artist. She's also involved in socio-economic of culture heritage. Navina contributes as a writer for all print magazines. I mean, there is nothing that she's not worked on. Could be the conflict resolution of Kashmir, the Indo-Pakistan, the Indo-Sri Lanka. She's taught at the International Culture Geopolitical Skill Dialogues Development. I mean, it's a huge, I would not be doing justice to it even by summing it up in 2 words. She's also trained 1,000 school teachers in heritage, education and and that's she's a spokesperson of BJP and a politician, a commentator. And before joining the BJP, she was one of the founding members of Aam Aadmi Party. She's been a media strategist of Team Anna and her tactful handling of media. And that's what Mr. Rao also said, that women are very tactful. So they bring all their skills and soft skills in front. She has a huge 15 years span of journalistic career, but she is involved totally in every aspect of tourism, and I've been working with her very closely since last quite a few years actually, and I think she brings out the best when I'm talking to her. Then we have here Aarti Malocha, who's been in the travel and hospitality industry for years. Aarti's vast experience spans over different portfolios. She's been moving up the ladder from contracting, and she heads one of the own company as an entrepreneur, doing Milestone to Memories Private Limited, which actually is involved in weddings. And why I brought her here because she does weddings and she's involved in tourism in India and outside. So we wanted her to come with her knowledge and see how she could actually motivate the people coming here. And she specializes in curating luxury, and she's done it for all the head corporates, the head kind of this. From all these chains, especially ITC, that they've had various, they have a huge women force working with them, they have a women force, they have women special floors for women where they can come and stay. So let's see how we can leave these tales behind. So that all the renowned panelists on this dais have actually contributed a lot to travel and tourism, and we want their strength, we want to learn from their experience to say how we can move forward. I think I'm going to sit now. answer to the man. He maybe really my power. So I think that we take this forward. I do not want it to be like a question and answer session. Actually, I want the entire audience and ourselves to learn from the experience. That is the most important thing, because we all can ask questions. We can all know the questions. We can always learn the answers, come here and speak about it, and that's what I do at many times. When someone gives me specific questions, to say, come and answer those, and I say, hey, I'll study about it, read about it, and come back. But I think what I need to know from this panel is that how they actually feel that women should be empowered. How, of course, we'll start with that one question, which I'm going to throw open to all of you, and I would like to make it like a living room discussion. That please join in whenever you want, whenever you can, so that we can just keep actually telling the people about our experiences and the audience about. So what do you think tourism is important for any country in India? And do you believe, as I do, that more women should join the industry, and how can she break the glass ceiling? Because I think that is where the taboo is. We need to take that first step to move forward, to say, hey, we are here. And one thing which always comes into my mind, and I said it when I saw so many women here, is that we talk about men, but I think we women ourselves judge each other much more than the men do. So I think that's one thing which I'm going to say about, and say let's start from there. And maybe we'll hear it from Rupinder, and then start with Janvi and come back here, and let's hear what the man says to us. Okay?
Thanks, Jyoti, and thanks for the wonderful introduction to begin with, and thank you everyone for being here. And we of course hope to listen to views from the men and the women who are here. On your first question, that does tourism matter and should tourism matter to India and to women, I'm sure for all of you who are here, there is a resounding yes to that. And there is a resounding yes which should have been happening in India, I think, years ago. And we as a country, I would say, are kind of sort of late in catching the bandwagon. Given the kind of, Navina, you're here, given the kind of heritage that this country has, and if we look at both the tangible or intangible, the natural sides, whether we look at the spiritual or the more philosophical aspects, Kamal spoke about mythology, and so much has been driving this country. Food has been driving this country, textiles, people here are working on textiles, and so many things have been driving the country, and we have clearly been missing a huge opportunity. But fortunately, and that's where, while it might almost now start becoming cliche, but I think we cannot not say that it is a lot of credit goes to the Honorable Prime Minister here for bringing it into every single pretty much narrative, speech, whether it is Mann Ki Baat, whether it is addressed to any of us in India, or whether it is as recent as yesterday in Denmark, talking about the diaspora. Can we, the diaspora, can you bring at least 5 foreign friends into India? So I think flagging it as an industry and flagging it and giving it that kind of importance as a sector is one of the hugest contributions, if you may say, to the brand ambassador himself, Mr. Narendra Modi. Right? And so it matters. It matters for employment. India has seen a jump. You guys will have more statistics than I have, that the direct indirect has grown up phenomenally. It's come up to almost 15% as per the data with the ministry on the entire supply chain. And yet, we still need far more. And we need far more women. Because this is a high contact industry. It is an industry driven by a lot of qualities, should we say, that naturally come to the Venus mind more. Again, no offense to the men, it is supposed to be a story weaving together of both the genders. But there is no disadvantage at all to women, rather it is an advantage here. And therefore, if you're looking at 20% as a country, it is a matter of concern. And we in the government, when we signed an MOU with you, Jyoti and Janvi last year, the idea, of course, is still in nascent stages and we still need to take it forward. But at least the fact that you guys came forward and the fact that we are recognizing it, I think is itself a big step forward. And we hope that in times to come, we are going to leverage on the phenomenal energy, aptitude, competency in everything that the women in this country have. And while today it was, specific to women, so yes, you have probably more women panelists, but I want to just say one last thought on this segment and then we'll come back to it, that about 10 days back I was part of the World Intellectual Organization's session, and that was not women specific, it was generic. They were coming out with a draft culture policy, the World Intellectual Foundation, it might be office to do like that. And they, in the panel on the dais, there were 9, and they were just 2 men, and the rest were women. So now, having said that, and why I made a point on that there also, and I'm making that point here, that as a culture, as a society, clearly that value was being reflected. Somewhere it has gotten lost, somewhere it has possibly gotten suppressed, for which a lot of us, Jyoti, you rightly said, women ourselves contribute to that. It's not always that you need the man to wait to open the door for you to walk into a room. Why would you not open the door yourself? Is the thought I just want to say.
Totally agree with that. Would you like to add on? Anyone like to please just pick up the mics and add on?
So, you're very right, Rupinder. And before that, thanks, Jyoti, for getting this excellent panel together. This was long due. So since we started off together, when I was president of Sticky Flow 2020, and Jyoti, my dear friend, also a Flow member, and we went to MOT and got that MOU signed, we were thinking about women as that unrecognized factor. Coming from where I do in the Northeast, I think tourism is a very integral part of our life. Tourism is a sustainable livelihood model. And our women have continued, our labor force from the Northeast largely goes out to the rest of the country in the hospitality sector. But they remain at unmonetized at a lower level. So that was my first thought when coming as president. I said we must recognize this women power and see that how, for the Northeast, give us better training, give us more opportunities, because we have an inherent hospitality skills as for this industry. First we needed the training. So that is the informal sector. And where the formal sector is, where all of us are in, there is so much learning that I'm going to take away from here. But I'd like to say that for the Northeast, tourism is an integral part. It's as valuable as agriculture, as handloom and handicrafts, another very important sector, and tourism. These are our 3 main earners of our region. And that is where we know that there's no sort of debate at all on the importance of this industry. It is integral to one's livelihood in the region. Thanks.
You have a mic in front of you.
Hello everyone, Jyoti, thank you for having me here, and everyone here, namaste. And it's a privilege to be here with these distinguished women and so. So my background is travel tourism, and then I took a leap of faith and jumped into events, and I've got into so-called the wedding management segment, which is now growing. It's a very unstructured industry so far, but it is getting popular, getting there, and I feel there is a huge opportunity that I could see from tourism to jump into allied industries like event management. So there are 2 segments that I am working widely on. One is wedding management and 2 is culinary, because I feel there's a huge opportunity in these 2 where tourism sector is concerned. And I think today's generation and the youth, the young women, they need to come up, and it's all about storytelling, because I think stories tell the best. And we need to position and set out our products differently. India is the most amazing country, and I think we have we have everything that is needed. We are the size of Europe, so we are so beautiful. We've got everything that we want. Every aspect of tourism can be covered to the length of breadth of India. And it's about weaving in the right kind of stories and trying to sell it rightly. So, and nobody better can do this than women who want to come up, and the young women in our industry should take lead in diversifying and moving into different segments.
Can I also ask another question as we move so that we evolve more? Wiit.
We were told, I was just hearing three very relevant inputs from you all. I would say, going forward, I would actually like to say that, can we say that we should be learning from our mistakes? Do we have to commit these mistakes ourselves to move forward? Or can we be the torch bearers of sharing what mistakes we have done, so the people who want to get into this business or the people who want to join this industry do not commit the same. So that is where we need to hold hand for the industry to say move forward. We all know what tourism is about. We know that what has to be done as a country. But how do we move forward to be the hand holder for the people who want to come up? So I would like you to share those experiences also, that people can learn from our mistakes. It's not always about achieving. It's also about where you've been let down, and you want the women to understand that. It can't be always hunky-dory.
I would like to say something about that. So someone from Kanpur, from Chawanganj, that area, and it goes on, but well, too loud now. So somebody who comes from Kanpur city, from a certain place, and who seeks opportunities, who works in television. In fact, for the first time when Kasil Mandava and Shekhawati was covered, the very first time Rajasthan was on Z was done by me. For the first time when Argentina was covered in India and all of South America on television was done by me. I think that traveling sisterhood, it's so needy, it's so much needed, because you're constantly judged, and not by men, by other women. And I think there's not a battle between the sexes. It is more of a we as women also are a repository of patriarchy in so many ways. So, and it's very tough. In fact, there are far more feminist men than there are feminist women. So to think that we need more women is a big mistake, because there's so many men who are far more encouraging. Then there would be so many men who would be far more encouraging than men. So it is actually a thought process. And I was pleasantly surprised to go to Uttarakhand 4 or 5 months back in Punjab, where there's so many more women working in 2-star, 3-star. But when you go to work for elections and to campaign and just do regular consultations, you have to stay everywhere. And you see small hotels and you see young girls. You go anywhere to regular CCDs and other places, and you see a young girl who's come from Jaunpur, and she's well dressed, and she set up she opens the shop and starts off, and she learns the basics, and you realize, oh my God, things are changing. But yes, there is a lot of judgment, and that is societal. That is us. No government, no infrastructure, no regulation, no legislation can help us there. That is the eyes that judge us from within. So that is the internal dialogue we need to have. Also as women, we are so judgmental. So we allow that to happen. And it's a conversation we have in the elitist bastions, in the drawing rooms, in the, just look at her, how she is. We just have to look at ourselves. It's a mirror we need to carry all the time, and look, how are you sounding? So it's that voice of judgment. And the same applies. So if you don't do that, and this is a constant reinforcement of beliefs that we have, nothing will change. So I think we need to get out of that. The whole chacha, chachi, mama, mami attitude, kis tarah ki ladki hai. And things have to be made safer, better access. We have to make things easier for others.
Jyotiji, thank you so much for inviting me. I was in the middle of the desert working with camel breeders and their women, skilling them in tourism. So my story and this whole concept, India is an experience. It isn't a country. And therefore, it is about travel. The second point I would like to make, that travel itself is an overarching engagement. whatever the concerns of His Honorable Prime Minister is about women, about sustainable development, climate action, environmental concerns, it can be addressed through tourism. And the woman is the anchoring force in every of these heritage ecologies, spanning north, south, east, west, center. She is the fulcrum. I've been working with these nomadic pastoral communities, whether they are the yak, the Pashmina goat herders, the camel herders. The woman is the anchor. The synergy with the farmers, where they go on their migratory routes, it's the farmer's woman who will negotiate that you keep the stock in the night. We will get the organic manure and you will get your safety. My second point is, as we are coming to solutions in tourism and engagement, and taking off from Rupinderji and Mr. Rao, you're looking at the service sector. I think one of the biggest challenges taking off from, say, a place like Khajuraho, it gets alive only in a particular season. The village is dead. It's a World Heritage Site. But the idea of women in taxis, how their skill can be multiplied as tourist guides. They become, or not even guides. I think we also need different hierarchies in the idea of heritage presentation, which is where I started my career. Not as a guide, but as a heritage presenter, as a heritage curator. The women in their own ecologies, in their homes, one of the biggest factors is content and communication. You know, what do you talk about? So when you're talking about homestays, all the woman can do is to talk about serving food. आप ठीक से बैठिए, आप ठीक से खाइए, और खाइए. You know that. So where is the content of what her story is going to be? So I'll give you some examples. For instance, I was working with these women who were herders, and I said, आप गोबर economy कर रहे हैं, and it's organic manure. So when the person comes, you will talk. I told them, they completely blocked. What is this story? आप अपने त्योहार के बारे में बात करिएगा, आप अपने सजावट के बारे में बात करिए. ये छोड़िए, ये सलवार कमीज और साड़ी पहनिए, ये लहंगा पहनिए, बॉल लगाइए, काजल लगाइए, महावर लगाइए, चूड़ियां खनकाइए. आप अपनी अभिव्यक्ति, एक स्त्री की जो अभिव्यक्ति है, वो दिखाइए. जब एक पर्यटक आता है, तो वो I'm going to be bilingual. When the traveler comes to your ecosystem, he wants to escape. He wants to see something different. So they've forgotten how to dress. What the women have forgotten how to dress. They feel that they need to be uniform with the rest of the world. So without taking, thank you so much for inviting me, but I really thought the women need to recall what their story is, what their role is. Thank you. ये माइक काफी ट्रैवल कर रहा है.
I know, but there are 3 mics there. I'd like to know you have so much women in your own hotel.
You must have already considered now.
No, thank you, Jyoti ji. I mean, this is a very unique place for me to be. And like they say, it's priceless. You know, I am talking on a topic with all of you on women tourism. I am on a panel, okay, outnumbered by ladies. I am in a room which is outnumbered by ladies. I don't think I've had the privilege of being in this position before. To add to that, all the conclaves that we do about diversity, I don't think I've been in a position like this before. So thank you. Okay, I'll start with a story here, you know. this about stories. So, now when I was 14, I was living in a place, I grew up in a place called Ranchi, and my mother's a doctor, so she and the Red Cross buddies would organize these camps, and I would be the designated driver to take them to the heartlands. So just 75 kilometers from Ranchi, you could find villages which were untouched by people. When you first go there, they look at our skin color and they're amazed. Right? They didn't know currency, so there's no question of rupee and all. It's still salt which was being used. So at 14, and I was the designated driver to take them there. Illegal, but nobody cared in those days. But I take the jeep and take them in there and so on. So, there was this occasion, we didn't speak the language, they didn't speak our language, so everything was signed and so on. They didn't trust the doctors because they didn't know what they were giving them. So it was an experience by itself. What struck me then is everywhere that we went, the final deciding vote or the voice used to be that of a woman. Right? There will be head lady, there will be a person who was in charge of the fields, distributing the labor, who was working in which field, etc. There will be people who would be expert in, capturing the elephants in those areas. So capturing the elephants and taming them. All of them were ladies. Right? And fortunately, we would be traveling with this bunch of doctors who would primarily do. So, starting from there and coming from a family where ladies were always working. My mother didn't know how to read and write till the time she was 8 years old. By the time she was 13, she had completed her 10th and matric. By the time she was 15, she was studying medical. Okay, so all that happens because you have someone in the family which gives you that leverage to go ahead. So coming back, for me, when I came into this industry, I used to see fathers, coming for interviews with their daughters and telling, "Meri beti hotel mein nahi kaam kari. Meri beti hotel mein nahi kaam kari." There is this whole stigma about working in hotel. I'm talking 90s, 80s, 90s, and so on. So we started doing these sessions for parents. When we get freshers to come into the hotel industry, we would first for the parents, like this room. We'll sit the parents in that room and show them item by item how we train, what a lady is supposed to do, how we protect them and keep them safe. And the first point of resistance which always came was not from the fathers, it was always from the mothers. Okay? So our goal was to break that mental barrier and give the comfort to the mothers that your daughters are going to be safe. You didn't work, your previous generation didn't work, but your daughter is going to work and she's going to make do for herself, and it's our responsibility to keep her safe. So that started breaking the mold. Coming back to my first story, I don't see this whole piece about ladies being unequal partners as you keep going down the lower strata of economy. I walk into the fields, I find people working in the fields who are equal partners. Do you see anybody working in, farms and fields where you discriminate between a man and woman? You don't. If you go to towns where buildings are being built, people who are carrying the bricks, or for that matter putting the cement, do you see a gender discrimination? No, I think they're all equal. They're all equal. Totally. So, I think the issue is a lot about awareness, and it's also a lot about cultural acceptance. We had this very unique experience 15 years back when we started going to the heartlands of Northeast to the villages to get people to come and work in hotels. Early 2000s, mid-2000s and all that. It was, still uncharted, unexplored. A lot of people were not coming to hotels. And at that time I was working with the Tatas, so we'd go there and say, we are from the Tatas, and the village headman would look at it and say, what are they talking about? So there's no meaning of Tatas. So ultimately the selling point would be the ladies who were traveling with us would narrate their experiences of how they work in hotels and how the environment was safe. So I think with all that we're talking about empowerment and or we're talking about the legal piece, I think the cultural shift needs to come from within. And it comes from men, right? It comes from men folk. My entire experience, I've seen the difference which leads to ladies at the workplace comes from men. Men in the family who allow them to come here. Men who are their colleagues, who give that sensitivity to them being ladies. Their own children, right? How they treat, how they expect the mother to balance home and work. So yes, Jyoti, I know I'm taking too long, but I wanted to share this. And I'll share more as we go along. I hope this sets the right context.
Thank you so much. Yes, I think it is, and we need to learn from this. So next time we're going to invite more men than the women so that they'll hear from us, right? Go ahead.
Just adding to this, where you talk about women helping each other, I would say that we need mentorship in a very large way. An organization such as ours really plays a role. If we women mentor each other, we will make sure they all come together. What Shazia has said, it's sad, but maybe it's true. But I'm sure things will change. They have more stronger mentorship in place, stronger incubations in place, and accelerators, which are the chambers of commerce. This is something we should really take forward in WIT.
So like I say also that, it's life is easy, people are tough. So, how do we actually come across them and how do we move forward? If I can quickly have an intake from all of you on that, because I don't think life is tough, it's people who make it tough. So how do we make that, pave the path for the women to move forward? Is something I'd like to hear from all of you.
Well, where we are concerned, I think we don't have to wait for anyone to tell us where to go and how. We ourselves are embodiments of authenticity and, confidence and capability. So it's us women who will have to take the forward step. Us women will have to mentor each other and incubate and take everyone forward. That is the only way. And I think the 21st century really belongs to women now. There are no more excuses. We've come a long way, and this, especially in the industry like this. You talk about the formal economy or the informal. It is just tourism is the answer for everything, and all services, all attitudes, everything can permeate from this. It's really up to us now.
So one of the things that came in my mind, because since I work in the environment of heritage, which means the repositories of a lot of the heritage wisdom is with the women. So while both Jyoti ma'am and you were talking about picking and creating from the top, I'm talking from voices from the margins and from the below. And where travel agents come in, when they create the demand for travel experiences and immersive experiences, which are now sustainable tourism, immersive experiences, that is where the engagement both on the monetized level for the women to come in and give them solutions that if you tell your story, and if you are engaged in the immersive experiences in a certain way, for instance, if we categorize adventure tourism, wildlife tourism, cultural heritage tourism, on-site tourism regarding a particular heritage site, the role of women in each of these ecologies could be identified as pilots. A cadre could be created if you're going into the forest, say the Taboda forest, or you're going into Bandhavgarh, or you're going into any other ecosystem. The importance is that how do you get the forest dwellers in the immersion? And that goes much beyond cuisine, because everything about intangible heritage, unfortunately, becomes either cuisine or crafts. And it's much more. It's their festivities, it's the way of dressing, it's their own personal stories. The other thing is unrepresented stories of who is the hero. So largely, we come up, okay, you have so-and-so Rani and so-and-so Raja, but there are heroes from within those own communities who've done some magnificent work and landmark instances. For instance, if you go to Sikkim and you hear the story of the orchids and how the orchids came back to India and revived as an industry, and you have orchid tours, where is the story of the women in the orchid? Is completely missing. It's completely missing. So, but then when you go into Sikkim and you go to the lectures, then suddenly you find that there is a story of the women, which is visible. So I think it's the visibility.
Yeah.
So I think I would like to echo what Janvi said about mentorship. I think it's about the leaders, the women leaders taking a certain role on to guide. There are a lot of people who need just about guidance and mentorship, and unpolished those diamonds. There are women who are so talented, but they are not able to gather the courage to move forward and take lead in things. And I think that's where women who already have reached a certain level or are in positions where they had a vision should encourage and bring this whole talent out. And I think that's very important for women to start mentoring and taking lead roles in bringing the other talent up. That's important.
Yeah, I think that's very important because success is not a machine, and it doesn't have any artificial intelligence. So we need to rectify and set up new mechanisms. We can't set up a mechanism immediately for any point of success, but we need to start somewhere. Yeah, Shazia, would you like to build this? Give the
Instructions again.
Yeah, government has to have no, not the government at all, but generally I think it is so societal, and I think the government cannot implement this. They cannot be a government voice in every.
There cannot be a government voice in every house. There cannot be a policeman in every house. So whether it's a gully or a mohalla, or a mosque or a church or a khutbah in a masjid, this has to be a societal change. It cannot come from men or women. This has to be about personhood. It cannot be like I see she the people. So it is about personhood, you see. It's about transcending the body. It cannot be about revealing the body or concealing it. And all conversations are about the body. So it is, I have different views on the subject. It is going beyond the anatomy. So it is about the person you are. And I think the stories have to be, like I just heard about when you, like for instance, Bay of Bengal, I've been right with it, and when you go, when it's the Bastar tribals, and you realize how civilized it is, how far more refined it is than anywhere else it could be, and how unrefined and crass the cosmopolitans are, the cities are, how bombing of crass it is, what it does to a woman and to her body, how degrading that experience is, yet they think that they eat, you see. So I have a very different take, and how you respect a woman you learn from the tribal societies. So I think there is a lot of learning and a lot of unlearning, and I think Ivan Illich, when he talked about unlearning, has to be done. So us and them, that whole conversation has changed. Unfortunately, we're stuck in a very terrible, cliched, limited, and a very small, myopic political narrative, and that seems to have gripped all of us. And I think we must go deeper, wider, and these are the conversations to be had, which is, and in Bastar, for instance, Kotul, how marriages are done, how people meet, how people choose their partner. It is far beyond, I mean, we can teach the world about it. And so when you learn about that and you realize, oh my God, and you need to go to Portia, and I'm sure we all have gone and seen some of the beautiful art and how, when we talk about LGBTQ community now, but you see there are forms of that, and all of that way beyond. So we have, I mean, Chipko movement is something we talk about now, but you read about Vishnois, and you read about those beautiful women who sacrifice themselves over the khejri trees in Rajasthan. They got themselves killed, and the 3 daughters who died to save the trees. So we are the original conservationists, the ecologists. We've known it all. But somehow we need to talk about it, and we need a Paris Climate Accord to kind of remind us that we need to get it there. So I guess it's just more about reading and learning about ourselves, about the ancient civilization ethos. And I think somewhere that is missing. Somewhere beyond the modern India and medieval India, going into who we are as a people. We have lost that. So that's one. And this, when I talk about sisterhood, I don't mean just speaking for another fellow sister. I'm talking about men and women coming together to fight another way of thinking. So men need to be our collaborators, and our partners, and our colleagues. It could be against other women who perpetuate the patriarchal cycle, so to speak, like I said earlier. And there are many, which is why I'm not for 33%. Just in the parliament of places, because just the face and the change of gender will not ensure gender justice. But the women-centric, women-centric yojanas and plans will actually make it happen. So I'm for that. I don't think just being a woman will ensure that. I mean, just having a Benazir Bhutto did not change things for Pakistan. Just having a Khalida Zia or having a wife or a widow or a daughter-in-law would change things. It needs a mind and implementation and execution of a certain belief that changes things in the ground for a young girl whose life changes. So that is what it has to be a man who has to go back to his past and make sure that his mother had a different life, his sister had a different life. He has to feel for that. We have to make sure that a younger Jyoti, that a younger Rupinder, that a younger Shazia should have had a better life. We have to at all times protect the little girl in us. And only then can things change. And at every moment, we have to be that undercover activists. Every moment, as bureaucrats, as spokespersons, as hoteliers, as travel agents, we have to be thinking of the little girl who felt shy, who could not find a toilet when she needed to, who was embarrassed, who was mocked at, who wanted to speak but could not speak, who wanted to read the paper but it was meant to be for the men, There was a Rana Khana, there was that thing, and she couldn't make it. And there were physical factors, anatomical factors that prevented her from being somewhere. We have to be aware of the little girl inside of us. And every man, of her sister, of her mother, of grandmother, of that, of a daughter, that I wish her life could have been better. And every man, every woman feels this. So it becomes a duty of everybody, a desire, so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Shania. I think you've touched a very significant chord here, because when you talk of deeper changes, no amount of regulation can bring that about. Regulation only recognizes a legal need to do things, but ultimately all change, and especially when you're looking at change of this kind, it has to be at a societal level, and all of us have to look at ourselves as a civilization which needs to grow and progress, and everyone has to be an intrinsic part of it. And that's why and I'm glad you said that, because when I gave you the example of the foundation's meeting, and the reflection, and that is the reality of this country. Why do we forget that? And we were 6 women and just 3 men. And so there is a lot of things are self-perceived when we look at barriers, especially to the segment that we are all sitting here. I don't think any of us needs to fall back upon that, should I say, excuse sometimes, that I wasn't allowed to do something. I think that's a very poor way of looking at your own self. And so one has to break those barriers and don't wait for everybody else to come to break barriers. So I think that's very important. And for all of us women who have done whatever we've done with our lives, and that's an example I have personally been giving wherever I have gone to speak, in colleges, in schools, right through my 30+ years in the government. is that since all of we are in North India, so you kind of sort of relate to the communities, and in our community also, it is the first priority, let's find a guy to marry. And yes, okay, we'll find a guy to marry. So when I was still in college, and I must use this opportunity to give a quick example of how it's ultimately a joint work in society. And we come from a landed class, so my father also started getting rishtas in second year. I was still in BA second year, and a couple of my cousins were already married, who were younger than me. So it's almost hilarious, and so I love narrating it. So my father got a rishta from somewhere in Muktsar, and these people have a huge stud farm, about 50 horses. They are in England 6 months of the year, so way back in the 80s. So very tempting to any father. So my father kept hearing the person who brought the rishta, and after he finished lavishing, she'll be in London for 6 months, this, that, Praji, matlab, aise to vadiya rishta nahi aa sakta, for all of you who understand Punjabi. So my father very patiently, and let me tell you that my father was a very old-fashioned person in many ways. It was after joining into, I think, class 12, while you wearing skirts kind of a mindset. But what stunned me then, and that gave me so much energy, and how we can make a difference by one phrase in life is a learning for me from there. My father simply very, very, very calmly and gently just said, "Tu 50 घोड़ियां दा की करेगी, वो घोड़े चलाएगी." For anybody who understands Punjabi, you got the point, but for the others who don't, my father's question simply was, what's she going to do with all these horses? Is she just going to ride her horses all her life? Is that the aim? And after that, the instruction to everybody was clear that she has to make a career just like her brother. Once she's done with that, we start looking at who should she be spending her life with. And that's a decision she will take, which I did. So I think when you said that, Shazia, that we are at all times surrounded with men who equally support us. Sometimes they are the ones who make you believe in yourself. And I think a lot of us are products of such fathers, such brothers, such men, such friends. Even today, a lot of men colleagues are the ones who push you, no, of course you can do this assignment. Why would you not be able to do it? So yes, progress has to be together, and it cannot be a situation of us versus you or anything like that. So that's more of the emotive plane. Coming back very quickly to tourism, 3 things that I want to say here. One, that as a government, we do understand our responsibility to create systems. Because somewhere along the way, it is also a fact that we have gone down on some parameters and some matrices, and we do need to work on that. Capacity building, yes, we need to train our people, because the world is all about knowledge, the world is all about very professional deliveries. So we can not only hark back to having a spirit in us of being hospitable, it has to be put together. The customer is very demanding today, and you can't just say that, okay, just because I know how to do a dal and a sabzi, I'm good enough to be a host. Because the world is very competitive. So that's one on capacity building. The other thing which we should not shy away from, because unless you don't accept the problems of your society, you cannot address them. Society in some parts of our country, and I'm emphasizing on that because it's not everywhere, the safety and security for women has been a concern, is a concern. And we need to be concerned as a society, and we need to be concerned therefore as a government. And in that, I want to share with all of you that we have piloted a study with the Bureau of Police Research, and we've come out with a report, and very soon, when I say very soon, it should be in the next month, because the talks are at very advanced stage with the Ministry of Home and state governments. Some state governments have systems in place currently, not all, and whatever systems are there are also very flimsy, kind of on the surface. So a conference at the national level to flag the importance of this issue. Because in the World Economic Forum's rankings for tourism in 2019, the 2 parameters in which India dipped down, and that's a matter which should concern all of us, was safety and security and sanitation. So clearly we need to do a lot of work in these 2 areas as we want to take tourism forward. So that's on safety security. The other on capacity building, Navina, you raised the issue of guides. We have been talking about the guiding issues. We have come up with a portal or an e-marketplace and a training program for guides on 8th of March. The cost of that was halved for women to just 1,000 rupees. And a lot of experiential learning chapters are being included so that it's not just about, as you rightly said, it cannot just be as simple as just putting a plate in front of someone and saying, I've made these 4 things, isko kha lijiye. That's not enough. There's so much more that needs to be done. And so that's some capacity building in terms of the guiding experiential. The third thing which I want to definitely use this platform to share is that with the Ministry of Minority Affairs, and that should concern a lot of you who work in the fields of arts, crafts, intangible heritage, storytelling, is about reaching out to the artisans and creating these clusters and hubs. And with the Ministry of Minority Affairs, we are the main lead ministry in terms of being the knowledge partners, in terms of designing these clusters. And an example I would just like to share with some of you who've been to Upada in near Kakinada. It's a place from where all of us wear saris from. These are weavers in a lane. But if you go to that lane, it is very shanty. They are producing impeccable saris, beautiful stuff. But there are these small little uncovered drains on the sides. The pathways are not just potholed, but it's a pothole in which there is a road sometimes, kind of a scenario. And it is something that we all need to be concerned about again. And these are the initiatives that will be taken up in this scheme, where we are looking at creating a facade for these loom house owners, because these are homes of people, which also back up as loom places. And how to create that kind of a cultural space. So 500 such villages have been identified in the country, and we've started our dialogue with some of the more proactive states, because you want participation. And we are going to be reaching out to all of you also, Jyoti, in how the women, because a lot of these trades are driven by women, whether it's music, whether it's instruments, whether it's singing, whether it's weaving, embroideries, and whatnot. So that's going to be an important initiative. So these are the 3 things that I wanted to touch upon: safety, security, and capacity building in terms of the portal and the online learnings, and the Vishwakarma villages, which have been approved by the government very recently, and we'll be working on that. But it's a subject on which you can keep talking, get very emotional about, but I'm sure we are far ahead of our time already. Yeah,
Thank you.
So this one is for corporates in this group, right? We've heard a lot about what the government is doing from a societal point of view, trade bodies. So organizations which are here in the business of doing business, research, every kind of research says that your customer returns are far more higher if you have a diverse population, right? So if I talk about hospitality, 40% of my footfall is of women, right? But the people who are there in hospitality, about 25% is what we are approximate. So not everything put together, not just the guest-facing functions. So what stops us from increasing? We know that we are going to get more returns, right? So what stops us from doing that? So a couple of thoughts which we at ITC hotels have been doing, just for everyone's information. The first piece that we have done is we have stopped, that's the wrong word, we have put more focus on the women, on the men, right? The first piece that we have focused on is sensitizing men to their women colleagues and what they need. The thing is, the moment you talk about diversity and pushing the women agenda, there is a passive resistance from men folk that this is an agenda which the companies drive, right? And that becomes the first barrier. So instead of solving the problem, you have created one additional layer of the problem. So the first thing that we started doing is we said we're not talking about pushing the women agenda. We're first talking about your mother, your wife, and your daughter. Right? The person who's working with you, if she needs to go on a maternity break, right? You just put your wife, your mother in the picture and see what you do. We are not going to put, policies that everybody in the second trimester will get 2 hours off extra. We're not going to say that. You have to pick up the load because that's what you're going to do, and you're just because you're a good human being. That's what you are. Right? So small initiatives like these started making a difference. And if we say today that in ITC hotels we probably employ more women than others, I think these are small gestures like these which started working for us. The second is this whole bit on going out to the parents and the families, like I said. We have masses where we have addressed parents and the mothers especially, and talk to them about what we do in our business and how their ladies will grow more. Glass ceilings are broken everywhere. Chef Manisha Vasim is here, apparently male-dominated industry, and she is, she is ITC said that who's in portfolio. What more can you, say about it? So that was one piece on the sensitization piece. The third is, of course, education. How you promote education in deserving girl children. And I am from hospitality, so we are doing some work in that area. Some which is going to come very soon, which I can't really talk about, but we are putting our weight behind providing education to girl students in hospitality. That's one way of creating the attraction of coming in. And the third, of course, is make a conscious choice to have your senior leaders as women. The kind of value it adds, and I've seen that in my current organization, in my earlier organizations, the kind of decisions we make and the kind of perspectives we get to hear, it makes a world of a difference. Do consciously put women in your senior management, and you'll reap the benefits. It's all commercial, right? What I'm talking about is the commercial benefits to organizations. Thank you.
I just wanted to, listening to your anecdote, and since this session is called Weaving Stories, I just wanted to share a small story. So, I trained with Pandit Priti Maharaji for 35 years. I still am a classical dancer. So, we went to Uzbekistan, and with us traveled some gaunt dancers. We were all traveling in different states. Traveled 120 days in 72 cities. We performed. One of the things is, ek rasam hoti hai, they bring daat tod cake to offer, and you have to cut the cake with the salt there. And then they give you presents. So the women came, the Uzbeki women came and gave us tea cozies. So there was one gaunt dancing woman, and the men were looking so sorry, but they didn't know what to do with that. This woman, she took out the wrapper and just wore it as a cap. And it was like, पूरे चेहरे पे बिंदी लगाने की बात है. And then within about 1 minute, everyone had bought the tea cozy on their hats. And there were national pictures out with the tea cozy and the hats. So the women can do so much of wonders. एक छोटी सी जगह है कि भाई चेहरा सूना है तो एक बिंदी लगा दो तो चमक आ जाती है. I think the women everywhere can do that.
I think we can all break the glass ceiling. We are all into it together. And like I always say, that a woman is a full circle. Within her is the power to create, nurture, and transform. And that is what we are. Sorry. Yeah, we'll just end this session now. I think because we are running out of time. So I'm sure these tales are so interesting that we could go on for the full day. But we would like to, we don't have a choice. I think we just need to close down and move forward. Yeah, I'm just giving you this 1 second. And that's the saying, we've all been learning the tales that we've heard. I'm sure it's going to change the way we think. It's going to change how the men think. Okay, and this is a new chapter, and I think we need to redefine how we are going to move forward, our approach, our attitude, and our thinking forward to see how we can all benefit, and not only the women. I say this for the men too. Thank you, Mr. Praveen Kumar, for being here and listening to us so patiently. Yakub, before we end, yes, would you like to say something?
So, talking about reading stories, it's not a story, this is reality, and I've been associated with the travel and the world, and been a Taai member for maybe 30 years. So I just wanted to share that we are talking about skilling now. I started that about 20 years ago. And by now in travel and tourism through these government skilling schemes, I've trained about 13,000 students.
Yeah, wonderful.
It's not really a story, it's not a story, it's the truth. And I wanted to share it.
Thank you.
As a part of travel too, we appreciate all the women present here. Actually, they've been a part of this industry. They've all been delivering to the best, and I didn't want to name one or two because I see all familiar faces. I know they've been putting their best here in that, and that's why you can see how committed they are, that they are all collected here today to hear us. Because I'm sure we get on to it, and that's what we think at Taai and Wiit. We are going to collectively do this, many more of these. And not only ours, from people who are on chairs. I think we need to hear the stories from people beyond ourselves to say how we can also benefit from them. Because there's always a life and there's always more experiences and more learnings, because that's what life is all about, learnings and learnings every day. So on that note, I'll thank each one of you for sparing your time. I know we're running a bit late, but I think that's what North India is about. Okay. And thank you. Before you leave, I'd just like to present a token of appreciation. Could I have the office bearers here, please? Yeah, of course. Yeah. We women love pictures.
Sure, sir.
Can we come somewhere now? Can we come in
कोई दिक्कत नहीं है पीछे आओ सर पीछे आओ पीछे आ जाओ तुम्हारा स्नैप आ रहा है चलो सर हाँ जी भाई साहब पीछे आओ यस सर
Sanjay, please go ahead and
प्लीज
Thanks, bye. I was going to say that earlier also, but I said
हाँ जी मैम प्लीज लुक हियर सर मैम ये वेट हाँ जी वेट मैम प्लीज होल्ड योर आईज वेट यस मैम आ जाओ
Excuse me, ma'am. With this session,
yeah
women to
yes
No, not at all. It's a pleasure.
हो गया
Yes, the women around.
सर थोड़ा सा मैम
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Wait, one. Yes, please. Yes, thank you, sir.
Jay, can you please start with Rupinder, I think. Can we have...
Ma'am, थोड़ा सा इधर ओके मैम थोड़ा सा प्लीज रुकिए मैम प्लीज रुकिए सर मैम प्लीज रुकिए थोड़ा सा ऐसे थोड़ा सा प्लीज हाँ जी मैम रुकिए हाँ सामने थैंक यू बोले यार देख के चलना यार कि वो मॉडल यूज करता है हाँ जी करो
Ladies को दीजिए, आप इसको
सब ले लो हाँ सही हो रहा है सर रुको सब ले लो क्या Yes, sir. I let me go to office. Wait. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Thank you everyone for bearing with us. I'd like to now invite, I'd like everyone to be
कोई भी मुझे भेज भी देना था ना मिलते हैं
बेस फोटो बाइट आना है कैमरा आना मैम यस मैम वेट कैमरा बीच में आ रहा भैया यस मैम वेट सर लुकिए पीछे कैमरा
hello everyone, I think it was very interesting and I think we need to take this forward so that we can also give you lunch. So I'd like to invite, because we are honoring some very women who delivered and who been the Shakti power, and I'd like to invite Group Director in Former Markets India who also partnering with us. Hello. So that's what happens when women get together. Can I have everyone seated, please? Excuse me. Can we have everyone seated, please?
I have a meeting.
Shazia, can we ask you please seated? Or should we give them the yes? No. So I'd like to invite once again Pallavi Mehra to represent Taai and Informa Markets. I think she's a known face for the industry. I don't need to introduce her. She's certainly holding a very prominent position as a woman. She's the Group Director in Informa Markets India, and I'd like her to take over the Shakti Awards that we are doing today. Can I please have Priyanka? Can you please have everyone seated here, please? Can I have Rajan? Can I have you seated, please? I'm sorry, but I need to say that to everyone. Shazia, I put you straight on the television. Please sit. Thank you. Please sit. Yeah, Pallavi, once again. I'm going to invite you once again. Please come. We'll get all the women to sit down the moment I step down. So good afternoon, everyone. So I think it was a long session and everybody needs some refreshment. So I can see our dear friends outside grabbing a cup of tea. So not taking more time, I really thank Taai, Mrs. Nehal for
giving us this platform, and let me start introducing what Shakti is all about and how it got conceptualized. So, to mark the celebrations of Amrit Mahotsav on the 75th anniversary of Independence Day, as per our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Modi's vision, Informa Markets India initiated in October 2021 Shakti Honoring Women Achievers, a felicitation program for women entrepreneurs and achievers across industry verticals that Informa Markets India organizes exhibitions in the country. Amrit Mahotsav is dedicated to people of India who have not only been instrumental in bringing India thus far in its evolutionary journey, but also hold within them power and potential to enable Prime Minister Modi's vision of activating India 2.0 fueled by the spirit of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Azadi Ka Mahotsav is an embodiment of all this progressive about India's socio-cultural, political and economic identity. Informa Markets India's travel portfolio comprises of Sate and T3 travel trends today, and we are pleased to collaborate with Wiit and Taai for such Shakti honoring women achievements, and would like to appreciate the brilliance of women entrepreneurs, business owners, industry professionals in travel and hospitality domain. We are an integral part of a family, a culture, a society, and most importantly, a nation. And we feel events of such nature will help women step out and rise. May I just request Mr. Praveen Kumar, Mrs. Barar, Mrs. Nayan, to please join me here. We just want to do a little unveiling of our Shakti logo.
Yes. Wait. कैमरा पीछे
क्यों कर रहे हो पीछे?
कितना पता रहा था
Sir, please. Ma'am, one. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
wait.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, please. One.
Yeah.
आइए
No, wait.
साथ में
जल्दी
Yes. Wait. Thank you.
So I will take it over from here.
Hi everyone. As we move ahead with Sati Shakti Award, we would like to bring up the first category out over here for leading from the front. She is a 1990 batch Income Tax Officer of Indian Revenue Services. She has been appointed as ADG Ministry of Tourism in July 2019. She has been working towards improving hinterland connectivity and promoting Indian heritage to organize well-targeted conclaves and empowering tourist guides with certification programs. We'd like to bring to the front the COVID-19 putting all tourist activities to the standstill from March 2020. Mrs. Barar took on the initiative to keeping the industry engaged by launching a digital campaign, Dekho Apna Desh, and have till date done more than 100 plus webinars promoting various facets of Incredible India. Can we please have ma'am on the dais? Can we have Praveen Kumar sir, Jyoti Mayar ma'am and Pallavi ma'am on the dais to please hand over the award.
Great appreciation. It's not. I think it's not wonders.
Sir.
Wait. Yes, sir. Ma'am, please. Yeah. Camera पीछे. Wait.
Thank you so much.
भाई यार ये वाक्य में यार तुम मत पैदा कर रहे
Senior
हट जाना होता है
at the Ministry of Tourism. She should not be allowed to go anywhere. Thank you. Congratulations and thank you. And these are nothing in front of what
Absolutely. Just a small token from my side.
जगह बना ही लो ना यार, सारा के संग करूँगा आपको मारो। अरे ठीक।
I will request if Praveen sir, Jyoti ma'am and Palvi ma'am can stay on the dais. We have multiple other
थोड़ा कर दे, थोड़ा कर दे।
हाँ बिल्कुल
आगे।
Moving ahead to the next category, we have outstanding contribution in hospitality. She is a trailblazer in India's maturing culinary culture, combining a global education, international cuisine exposure to final elegance of quality, hygiene and preparation, to an uncanny sustainability of Indians' mastery of taste. A pioneer lady, chef of the country, she many national and international awards under the belt. Many cuisine concepts have been seen light of the day under her guidance, newly wing, Pan-Asian and multiple others. Can we please have Chef Manisha Basim ma'am on the dais, please?
I think today we are very proud. We feel most looked after when we go to where she's been heading it for so many years. ITC is a brand to be having food.
Yes, ma'am. Please look here. Yes, ma'am. Sir.
भाई कैम
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. She's literally the cuisine ambassador.
Thank you, sir.
The next award category is Outstanding Contribution in Promoting Heritage Tourism. Ma'am is a cultural technocrat, an academician, and a renowned performing artist. Having pioneered academic cultural tourism, her work has reached out to academicians, high-level political and economic delegates, students, corporate executives, and children. She is currently a lead consultant with the Asian Heritage Foundation and director of Indian Cultural Heritage Research. Her contribution towards training over 1,000 plus school teachers in heritage education for multidisciplinary learning, innovations of social science and conflict resolution in Kashmir, Maharashtra, Jharkhand, and Delhi NCR. May we have please on the dais Ms. Navina Jaffa ma'am.
एक तो होना चाहिए, I know, for everyone's benefit. एक तो.
कोई भी गाना कोई भी बजा दे, कोई भी बजा दे।
बहुत है तो आपके फोन पर ही है सारे गाने।
कोई भी
कोई गाना फोन पर
मैं गा दूँ।
हाँ भाई नो गा दो।
आप आइए।
माइक को दे दो इनको। हाँ 2 लाइनें भी जिसपे बोलो।
आप आइए, साथ आइए।
अच्छा चलो एक बार दिखा दो। नवीना के तो डांसर्स हमने
भैया के पास चले
कैमरा पीछे यस मैम ये सर वेट थैंक यू
बीच में आया था लेकिन भाई मेरा लाइव चल रहा है मेरे इतना मजा हुआ है
I've seen her do it. She goes to the monuments and she just starts there.
That's why we could not have missed it.
We could not have missed it. She's really a
होती है ना
what
बॉडी
I'd like
ट्रांसफ्यूजन होता
to
है
do is for the
फिर कोई छोटा
entire
मिलता है
audience
उसको
to inherit
अगर तो करने को कर जाएगा
and how about doing it on Tawais?
Yeah,
and we love that. And
But where would you like to do it? Which city?
दिल्ली
दिल्ली
में करिए और मैं आपके लिए करूँगी और खूब नाचूँ.
Great. We look forward to that. Rupinder, we should be doing that. There is something like that.
Moving to the next award category, we have recognition for promotion of adventure tourism. CEO of HMA Spectrum Handcrafted Holidays and Board of Directors at Holiday Moods Adventures Group of Companies. Arshdeep is a true professional with deep domain knowledge of a map of journey and with utmost diligence and sincerity. With experience of 23 years in the tourism industry, she has been working with the Indian Travel Trade Specialization in active and adventure travel promoting and crafted experiences, stories and adventures of the responsible travelers. Can we have ma'am on the desk, please?
Thanks, look here.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, yes. Wait. Flash picture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We truly deserve it.
Yes.
And one does feel very encouraged.
So nice.
That, you know,
You
it's
deserve
very
it.
inspiring for so many people, I mean, who are just looking at
Camera
us.
picture.
Yes, ma'am.
It's an inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
and
much.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next award category is Outstanding Contribution in the Holistic Promotion of Tourism in Northeast India. She is an entrepreneur, a co-founder of two national tourism award-winning companies, Jungle Travels India and Assam Bengal Navigation Company and the JTI Group. Her companies are encompassed in travel and hospitality, boutique river cruising, small group specialization tours, tea and textiles, all of which empower young people's livelihood, especially women and their communities. She is passionate about women's empowerment. Janabi ma'am strongly advocates and tirelessly work towards building sustainable livelihood of women's economic upliftments. Can we have Mrs. Janabi Fukan ma'am on the dais, please?
Sorry for that.
Thanks for you. You deserve it. Nothing
Yes,
comes
sir. Fully look.
without delivering.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Wait. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you and congratulations. Thank you for being here with us.
No, thank you so much.
Moving to last award of the day, we have Leader of Future. The founder of Jet Set Go, an aggregator service for aircraft, often described as the Ola Uber of the skies. An entrepreneur whose relentless pressure of hopes positively and drives Mrs. Kanika Tekariwal was not only chosen as one of the 100 most inspirational women in the world by BBC, but also recognized by Forbes Asia as one of the 30 under 30 leading entrepreneurs in Asia. Can we have please on her behalf Shivangi receive the award?
Ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Thank you, Definitely.
Excuse me, ma'am. Yeah. Wait. Thank you. Okay.
I would like to hand over the dais to ma'am to invite Praveen sir.
I think that were very well deserved appreciation awards given to the most. I don't even have words for these women actually. I'm at a loss of words now after seeing Manish, the chef here, Gobinder here, Janvi here. I mean, I think it's just awesome. Anyway, I'll say 3 cheers to all the women here. We all deserve these awards. I'd like to now invite Mr. Praveen Kumar, who's 1987 batch retired IAS officer of Tamil Nadu cadre and the former Secretary Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Well, I've been working with him very closely, and that's why he said, he's no longer in the government, but I think once a government person, always remains a government person. So, and I've worked very closely with him since THSC times, and I'm sure those times are going to continue. But I think the relationship I had shared with him was one of those, the doors were always open for us to give our thoughts to him, to take things forward, and we feel very proud to be associated with government people like this, because I think government was very slow at times, and no offense meant to the government, but I think it's just that they take baby steps every time, and we are the ones as entrepreneurs wanting to push everything. And I think Mr. Praveen Kumar understood our thought processes and actually supported us. So presently he is also the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. I'd like to welcome Mr. Praveen Kumar once again. Thank you, sir.
Respected Ms. Jyoti Nal, President of Taai and Chairperson of TSCC, all dignitaries here, Rupinder, Madam Sajjadni, and everyone, and the trailblazers. The word you were searching for, Jyoti, was these people were the trailblazers. The trailblazers who got the award and have opened the pathway for all, not only women, for men and women in the sector. When I was Secretary of Skills, out of the 38 sector skill councils, I think perhaps I have interacted the most with this tourism and hospitality sector skill council. Attending a number of the programs, unfortunately, it was all virtual because of COVID, and perhaps this is the first physical program I am attending of this council. And the result of all this interaction, perhaps it had to be my daughter has chosen to do bachelor in hospital and hotel management. So that is the effect of all the interactions I was there. And as a traditional middle class person, I was enthused not to stop her from going from hotel management, engineering karo, medical karo. So we allowed her to chase her dreams, whatever she wants to do. But that's because inspired by Jyoti and others. In this sector, I have interacted with them. So one of the attachments because of this sector is, apart from the dynamic leadership, Mr. Rajan, Mr. Mayada, who used to interact very frequently with me, is the immense potential which this sector has in the country and unrealized potential. There's a lot of potential which are not realized as yet. And also the potential of introducing employment, increasing employment in the country. Tourism is one of the best vehicles. If you want to increase employment, it is a major issue always for the leadership. And as skills development, our worry was how to use our machinery, the skills set up to realize this potential to improve the employment, make good quality tourism workers all across the hierarchy, whether it's the top leadership up to the boots on the ground. Like India, I regard as one of the heavens of tourism. Whatever is, think of it, is there. Snow-capped mountains, sea, desert, forest, wildlife, ecotourism, adventure tourism. She got award. Award adventure tourism, and religious tourism. Whatever. Now we have a rural tourism, medical tourism. Whatever you have in any country, we have there in the country. It's there. And in terms of employment, I think this is one sector which 1 rupee invested generates the maximum employment compared to some other sectors where the employment generation may not be that much because of capital intensity of those programs. This sector again was badly impacted due to COVID. So badly impacted, I thought that it's not going to recover at all. And even though COVID goes away, this sector might not recover. The habits may change. People may get used to live in the virtual world, interacting with you virtually, going through 3D virtual tourist places, and all that will take place, and posting them on their Facebook and Instagram to get likes and wah-wahs kind of thing. But I'm happy that it has recovered marvelously and recovered so much that I think you want a hotel for a weekend anywhere near Delhi, 300 kilometers from Delhi, won't get it. First time I heard the word revenge tourism. People are going out as a revenge for 2 years of COVID. So that's a good sign that I used to tell that this sector is going to be impacted. The conferences will stop. People will start doing conferences. They have seen the having a virtual conference, sitting on your chair, you meet everyone, discuss. So these habits may continue. But good, everyone is now coming back. Even in my new institution, we have programs we have in Goa, so that a lot of people come as an incentive to go to Goa. So we have programs, training programs in Goa. So these kind of things is returning. That's one good thing we have. But I'm guilty of one thing. So far, I have never seen this sector from the gender perspective. I mean, never. Even though I'm told internationally more than 50% of the people employed are female in this sector. Though in India it's much less, what I saw Sanjay tell that only 25 to 30% is in their hotel, which is one of the progressive hotels, and maybe lesser in other places, but still I never saw that. This conference made me think of it, that from the gender perspective, and I saw that while all of you must have been thinking from the supply side, how to increase the participation of women in the tourism industry per se. One important factor first I want to look from the demand side. The demand for tourism from women. I mean that you find that now we have all women groups going for tourist places. Rather, sometime back, not now, but some years back, I saw a Bengali group of women on the Gangotri glacier alone, not chaperoned by any male uncle or father or brother or someone, alone. Forget about this. Last week I had gone to Rishikesh, and all women group had come for river rafting. So this is becoming more prevalent. And not because Kangana Ranaut made it famous for her picture Queen, where she went to single for the but that very fact that movie was success, that means struck a chord that we can enjoy ourselves, we can go ourselves. So this is one sector which is ready to be tapped. We have to bring it out. That feeling is there that we should go out unhindered by male gaze, male. That happens whenever male is there, all responsibilities go to the okay, tum leke chalo. All those things happen. That's traditionally the Indian mindset. Even if you don't want most modern of men and this thing, they tend to take over. So, but there is a demand, and I've seen many colleagues of going to for a all-women trip to some place kind of thing. So there has to be tap. But for tapping, you have to see, analyze, do an audit. What do women want? Or how is the safety issue? Whether it is safe for us to go as women. So, whether toilets are there or not. I mean, that's the most important thing. Toilets are there or not, women toilets. All those things we have to do as audit of. Perhaps Rupinder may like to audit tourist places based on facilities from the gender perspective. That whether they are what we need to do. And the tourism police thing, what she is doing is very good. We started trying to do it in Tamil Nadu 15 years back. It was not so successful because those tourism police didn't have any power, so they were just became a kind of guides, enhanced guides kind of thing. But that's a good thing. The cooperation of police is there, and it is a safety. Safety is the biggest issue which affects tourism. If you feel you are safe, people will come, and people feel that it's not safe to go out after 6 p.m. Then people are not going to come. Or the females are not safe in this part of the country, as a lot of people say, North India is not that safe compared to South India. So that affects tourism. And coming to the supply side from that, if more women you see on the other side of the desk, you feel more comfortable if the person you interact with from the tourism industry is a woman. As a woman tourist, I feel more comfortable. She is not going to cheat us, not going to exploit me. That empathy is there, so that helps. That brings me to the supply side. How we can increase women in tourism. I think sure all of you must have discussed in the panel discussions. A lot of details and a lot of repetitions may be there. But we need to increase not only at the ground level, but right from the top, at the leadership level, the entrepreneur level, the board level, the key management personnel level. And why I say this because what happens that I'm not gender stereotyping, but a lot of skills women have, empathy, etc., which has a very relevant to tourism industry, which helps. Leadership, women leadership at the top generally go for more sustainable solutions. Will go for more innovative solutions which are gender neutral. Will think from the gender perspective. Those things will happen because of which, in the long run, the entire industry and your company also will benefit. The leadership when the women are there, everyone will benefit because of that. And generally, if you see, they will use for more. Chances are high, go for renewable power. Chances are high, they will go for more ecotourism, and which helps in the long run for the tourism itself. Not only the women leadership, but the company itself. And in the long run, you make profit. Your shareholders are going to reward you for that. It's not that you are going to compromise on profit. It's profit versus sustainability. It won't happen. Generally, the women leadership I have seen leads to better addressing of sustainability issues, other issues which are very much relevant to tourism. And where there are male leaders in the tourism sector, I request not to stereotype role of women in senior management. HR के लिए ठीक है, communication के लिए ठीक है. Those things that happens in industry. In bureaucracy also, will vouch many times. Some ministries ये तो ladies के लिए रखते हैं, ये gents यहाँ ladies नहीं आएंगी. It's breaking. Lot of things which were not there for ladies. There's a home secretary post. I've seen 20 years back in TN, there was a home secretary, and that continued. So this is breaking. But this type of thing, the leadership of the companies, of the corporate, have to ensure the stereotypes need to be broken. They are not for field operational activities where we need men and only women are there for this soft, what they call inverted comma soft activities. That should be broken. That the silos which are there for women and for men, that needs to be broken. And it will be rewarded. And whoever leaders who are here, male leaders, female leaders, but leaders who are there, we will be rewarded by breaking these silos. That I see. Like I read that some companies like Accor, etc., take a pledge on women empowerment. I think that should be made a norm. But I might suggest to my ministry that should be made part of the corporate governance. That pledge on women empowerment should be taken by each company. And in the long run, companies will benefit, the shareholders will benefit, and they will reward you for that. That is my hunch. Now coming to the frontline workers, tourism is one place where it's easiest to convert people from the unorganized sector to the organized sector. Because many times the skills are already there. Skills, we have to convert that into, polish it, skill them, and like chef, Madam got an award. See, everyone knows to cook. Only thing you have to skill them, make them that how we can cook for a guest, for a hotel, for a commercially. That is much more easier compared to some other where you have to learn afresh everything. So that way it is easy. But why we are not able to do it? When I was secretary skill, we had a study commission on the gender sensitivity in ITIs. ITIs are technically they are all gender neutral. I mean, there is nothing which says that men will be preferred over women. But it was seen that women are only 6 to 7% of the total ITI strength. So there are many issues starting from right from the family itself. It's only the women who have to prove themselves both in the house and in the profession. They are expected to perform both well, and if they don't perform well in one, suppose there is some problem in the house, people will realize that if they are not doing well in the office supervision, she is too busy with the home activities. So this trade-off, why is this trade-off? I mean, this trade-off should not be there at all. I mean, we have to create an environment that this trade-off should not be required. And there are many ways. I mean, for skilling, we try to bring in some lot of things where like something like flexible training modules. Now women are different because most women, I mean the lower middle class women, etc., have to work in the house also and work also. The training, they may not be able to afford time to give the full day to come for training, get trained, and become a skilled worker. So we got in flexible training modules that you train as per your pace. Morning activity, you are free, you do the training, then you do some other activity, that kind of thing can be done. Then have female teachers, that takes a lot of advantages, having a female teacher teaching you. One thing, the male teachers normally are not sensitized enough to address issues. What happens, they may use metaphors, etc., which may not be liked by women, because that happens because they have been not trained that way. Sensitize male teachers and have more female teachers. And that is studied that having more female teachers leads to more enrollment, more people come in, and more female students come in. Then child care, creches, hostels, all those things are very important things. Needs to be there. If a woman has to go out, if there is a working women, hostel facilities are there. There is not much more chances that they will be employed in the sector. They will be there. Then creches are very important. Everyone can't afford some ayah to be there 24/7 looking after the children. So they have to bring the children to creches that way. And law is also there. Again, gender sensitization committees, that's very important. In spite of all the good cases arise where this issue of gender comes in, so these committees have both a proactive role and also a role of giving a confidence that if anything happens, there is someone I can refer to, go to immediately. Again, allow women to work 24 in the nights also, because many states still don't allow night shifts for women. Some states are allowed because of the IT push. And tourism is a 24/7 job. I mean, hotel has to run all night services have to be given. You can't have a night shift in women may asking. That itself affects. So those legal changes also may be required in this. Other thing perhaps we should all worry about, which affects both male and women, but will affect females more because they are the more vulnerable. So any impact comes, first group which drops out is the women. These are disruptions which will keep on occurring. Disruptions are going to occur very frequently now. It will be positive disruption like the COVID, or it may be a negative disruption like COVID, or it may be positive disruption. Like COVID destroyed your total industry person. Even positive disruptions like good road connectivity to Agra. That is affecting the hotels in Agra because no one wants to stay now overnight in Agra. They would like to drive down 1.5 hours to Agra, see Taj Mahal and whatever, and come back. And so this is a positive disruption. Is positive, but it is affecting the industry. This technological disruption will continue to occur. My favorite quote is the barber. I think my parents' generation used to have the barber shave their face. But with the safety razor, that whole sector went down. Shaving, half the business of a barber went away with the invention of safety razor. Similar thing, if you see now, cable TV 20 years back was a very popular employment thing. But with all this dish and all that, cable TV is disappearing. So these issues, hospitality is especially sensitive to disruptors. Any new thing affects the entire business, and it's also capital intensive. Like hotels come in. Yesterday I was talking to a person. He had bought some land for having a roadside hotel kind of thing for it. But suddenly an expressway came in parallel. So this land waste because no hotel on that roadside is going to have a market because now vehicles have stopped going to this direction. So all these things we have to be prepared for disruptions. How do we prepare? One thing, skills which we learn tomorrow, business models which we follow today. Yeah, sure. Today may not be applicable tomorrow. One thing our skilling system, PHSC, should focus on multi-skilling, that we have multiple skills, not multiple only in the sector, even cross-sector, like hospitality and home care. There can be a common skilling across Same person can be trained to take home care and they can also be trained to be hospitality. Similarly, this cross sector, we have to think of it. And then we have to make them capable for reskilling and upskilling. Suppose we have some skill, it is gone, some machine has come in, it does the job. Rotis are being made by the roti maker, so I can't make roti. So I should be able to skill myself to something else, or go to become an upskill myself to be able to operate the roti maker. So that kind of a training we need in the sector. Both what happens, why this gender perspective comes in here, because any disruption is the women who get affected first. They are retrenched first. They have to leave out first. Anything happens. Another thing again, I request that don't compromise in quality. Chalo 90% करके चल देते हैं, because we can't have international quality by having a domestic lower quality. For tourism services, चलो ये Indians के लिए चलता है. We can't have these two kind levels, because we can never have a dedicated person or foreign tourist. If we ourselves, for Indian tourists, we don't give the same training, so that becomes the base. So once we train well for high quality services, then automatically foreign and Indian they will get it. Other thing, both for new entrepreneurs and new thing, please be careful of the law of the land. Be on the right side of it. A lot of corporate governance issue is there. If you think I am coming for making a marketing pitch for my organization, it's true. So, if you require any training on corporate governance for any of your institutions, for your board or your below their board level, Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs will be there, be it on CSR, on ESG, on director's role, etc. And gender perspective in this thing, all these things will be able to be. With that, I'd like to close. Thank you very much.
White या जो भी
Thank you,
आगे
sir,
बढ़ने से क्या
for
होता था?
fantastic words and the pitching both simultaneously.
Sir, will you look here? Yes, sir. Oh यार तू देख अंधा है.
Thank you, friends. We move on to our next session. Our next session, after this session, which was on weaving tales, is going to focus on creating your sunshine. This session, the panelists shall be sharing their experiences on skills and the wisdom that they have accumulated over decades. This shall be specific not only to men and women, yes, but there will be an emphasis on women as well, on how entrepreneurship, on travel and tourism can be developed, and how growth and economic independence in international taxation from Stanford University of Public Policy, Duke University in USA. Our next guest will be Mr. Sandeep Dwivedi. Sandeep ji is the Chief Operating Officer for Interglobe Technology Quotient, an e-commerce and innovation organization for network and IT infrastructure, relationship management, marketing, distribution, business excellence, planning, strategical verticals, etc. Mr. Sandeep Dwivedi also has been a part of Business Standard and Head of Finance, Accounts and Administration in his previous role. I'd like to now also call upon Dr. Charu Walia Khanna. Dr. Wali Khanna is a PhD in law, Advocate Supreme Court, President of NGO called SAFMA and former member of the National Council for Women. and has an extensive experience in the field of women and child rights. She has a career in the world of, earlier she had a career in the world of advertising and has moved on to various capacities in the law field. She authored a number of papers and publications which include Modern and Indian Through Her Eyes. She says she is married but not legally wed. I think that's a very fantastic phrase what she has an anecdote to that effect. I would also like to call upon Dr. Sonia Barwani. Sonia ji is from BFS and is the General Manager, Learning and Organization Development. She has a vast experience of over 20 years in facilitating learning across various disciplines of business administration, hospitality management, teaching across international curriculum in Oxford Brookes University in Nottingham, Trent University, UK, EHL, Switzerland. She was previously the head of ISME in Mumbai, and which offered various courses in hospitality and travel management. I'd like to also invite Ms. Aditi Malik, Founder Director of Arohan Talent Solutions. She's a soft skill expert and she has 28 years of rich and diverse experience with multinational banks and many organizations. Our final panelist will be Ms. Parinita Sethi, Publisher and Chief Editor of Global Spa and Peak Life. She's the person whose name is synonymous with wellness and lifestyle in the country today. As a visionary, she has not only educated the consumer, but also helped the industry grow by setting up platforms for interaction and curating experiences. Thank you, panelists. To start our panel with the conversations, I would request all of you to individually give a brief of how you can create your own sunshine in terms of the experiences and the skills that you have imbibed over the years. How do you propose and how do you look at the future to take things forward to create your own sunshine? Ma'am?
You want to start with the man or the woman?
Thank you for inviting me here and allowing me to address everyone. And I'm in this distinguished galaxy of panelists. I think you use the word decades of experience. I have a little bit of a reservation because that makes me feel very old when you say decades. But yes, how do we create our sunshine? It's not, what does the sun do? The sun not only shines, it gives light and brightness to the world. So I think each of us, since we have such a vast experience, we need to give to others. We need to give what we have learned from others. And since the topic is women in tourism, I think it's very important that this new generation, which is very highly aspirational, we need to train them and mentor them. It's very easily said. And the large number of women in the workforce, which is almost 81% of Indian women in the workforce, are in the rural areas. And we need to hone their skills. Don't tell them that this is what you need to do. Because what my experience with design, I've been working extensively in all the rural areas and with design and crafts. And they also said that these NIP people come to tell us that change this design. I mean, the lady next to me, she's wearing the most amazing Indian traditional outfit, which is stunning, color scheme, the red and blue is stunning. So we need to train these people and hone their skills and kind of mentor them. Somebody in the morning used this word because India is an experience, and we need everyone should know how to experience that.
Thank you so much and a very good afternoon to all of you. And first of all, many thanks for inviting me for this panel discussion, which I think the topic of women empowerment is close to all women's heart. So it just comes from within. When you are asked to speak, it comes from within. So I'm very happy to be a part of this discussion today. But coming to our own journeys and what we have learned from that, I would like to give my brief background because I come from a very small town and I have reached a level where I feel it is only because my parents were very, very supportive and education was a very important aspect in our family. So if that is understood by many people in India, that education is so important for a girl child, I'm sure the girl child can break all class ceilings. It's extremely important to get that parental support. And for me, that support came from both my parents because I was in a place called Shahjahanpur, which many of you may not have even heard. It's a very small town in Shahjahanpur, in UP. And we didn't even have good English medium schools over there. It was only up to 7th that I had an English medium school. And then probably my mother, who was also born and brought up there, but look at her far-sightedness, that she could think and imagine things for her daughter, who she thought had the potential to send her to a boarding school at that point of time. So she sent me to a boarding school, a very good boarding school in Uttar Pradesh, where I did my schooling and I regained that confidence. It is the school which made me extremely confident, so education came to play a very important role in my life. Thereafter, after completing schooling, the next stage was of college. So, having studied in a good school, there was no way I would have done my college from Shahjahanpur. So I applied for Delhi University and again by God's grace and good fortune, I was able to secure admission in Miranda House in Delhi. So what people told my mother, they said, look, now that you have sent her to school, good enough. But if you sent her to Miranda House, let me tell you, that girls there scale walls and run away. So my mother said to that if she has to scale walls, वो तो घर की दीवार भी कूद कर भाग सकती है. How can I stop her education because of that? So that was something which I have always carried with me, and that is something I always felt I owed it to my parents. And that gave me the determination to do well in life. So that is how I came to Delhi University. Delhi University being the hub of civil services, I got that exposure. But being into civil services is also not an easy nut to crack. It's a very difficult thing to do. And you're taking your chances. You may succeed, you may not succeed. So, because my father was a lawyer and I came from a family of lawyers, I thought let me keep my second option as law. So I did my law also and I joined the High Court and then of course it came into civil services. So, talking about creating sunshine, I think I created sunshine all along because of that support I got. So it is not one stage in your life when you create that sunshine, it's at every stage. Given the opportunity, you should create that sunshine. And you should always feel that your parents are there with you, your family, all your support, and then you can just move forward with that confidence. So having now become part of the department, one can say, okay, now I have cleared civil services, I have created my sunshine. No, you have just begun again, all over again. Because when you get into the services, be it IPS, be it income tax, be it administrative services, you are just a graduate when you enter and you are going to be specializing now. Income tax, I didn't know head or tail probably of income tax when I entered it, or even an IPS officer doesn't know head or tail of criminal procedure code or civil procedure code. They have to learn. So we have to again make a beginning. And I think that is where two things have played a very important role in my life and which I have kept as a matter of principle. One is domain expertise. In whatever you do, be it travel industry, be it tourism, be it anywhere, you have to have that, you have to acquire that domain expertise. And that comes with giving time to something, devotion, sincerity, and I think these are the traits of women. These are very, very strong traits of women. And if they want, they can acquire these, these streams very comfortably. So you have to work towards domain expertise no matter in which field you are working. You need not be qualified or overqualified for that. Because it's a skill. It is a skill which can come only through practice and learning. So that is one thing I did. And another thing, as being part of the taxation department, because I really don't know much of the tourism industry per se, I'm only a taxation person, but of course we are connected with them because we are taxing their income. So we may not be a very pleasant partner to be with them, but all the same I feel as being part of the tax department, it is our responsibility to ensure that there are policies that make them do ease of business, that does not make them see tax as a burden. It should come as a commitment towards nation building. So that is the spirit with which taxes should be paid, and I think income tax department has a lot of role in making that, giving that comfort level to the taxpayers. So having said that, I think today, as far as policy making and reforms in the income tax department are concerned, I have reached a level where your expertise is counted and you are put into various committees. So we are working on all those reforms, and soon I think I will be able to spread more sunshine. Thank you.
Hello everybody, and it's such a pleasure to be here with such eclectic personalities. And now, sunshine is something that we all need. We know it's vital for our organs, but it's equally important for our emotional well-being as well. We know how do we get that special vitamin D into our lives through the sunshine. So one needs to wake up early in the morning. One knows that that important sunshine of the day is most important for you. But how do you get up in the morning? You need that determination. So for me, the most important thing that is relevant and important for creating your own sunshine is determination. So determination that I am going to achieve my goals come what may. Secondly, when you get up in the morning, you need to exercise. We all know that. Now the question comes, what form of exercise should I do? Should I do Pilates? Should I do gym? Should I walk? Should I run? What should I do? But the important thing for us to understand is to have clarity of goal. What is it that is going to give me and help me to achieve my goals? So the second most important challenge to create sunshine is to have a clarity of goal, to know what you really want to achieve in life. Then comes the afternoon. In the afternoon, the sun is harsh. We can't really bear it. We can't take it. So again, life is like that. You have situations where life will be difficult. You will not know what to do. You will not want to go out in the sun. Again, I'm linking it up with the sun. So important thing is to know that life is full of challenges. You are going to have to face them and to be able to know that it's not a bed of roses. You should be able to take the bad situations as well as the good situations. So these are the important things. Life is exactly like sunshine. Sometimes energizing, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh. So the important thing is for us to create our own sunshine by taking actually the lead from the day of sunshine. You know there are going to be various aspects in your life that you are going to have to face. So be determined, face it with all the panache that you have, and take life as it comes. So create your own sunshine, rise and shine. That is the only thing that will take you where you have to go.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for all the views. Before getting into a sunshine, because Mr. Rao was talking about Ramayana and all those things, so something that I remember with the woman empowerment and all those things. So the main if you look at from an India perspective, means few people call it a mythology, few people call it a scriptures, whatever is there. I still remember as a childhood when we were growing, the most important factor always remained shlokas and all those things. So one shloka I always remember in my life, because life is totally dominated by womanhood at home also and office also. So there is a Manusmriti, there is a shloka in Manusmriti which says that Yatra narasti pujante ramante tatra devata yatraste nar pujante sarvas tatra phala kriya. So which means that wherever woman is honored, God is pleased. Wherever woman is not honored, no sacred rites can bring any fruitful results. So, having said that,
So go back, it means to the shloka, and then again I could relate myself that what is that so important to shine out, or whether you call sunshine or anything. So believe in your core values, please believe in your integrity, believe what you've done and how you've grown. And one of the point I'm taking up from ma'am, that the learning and development is so important, that upskilling time to time is fundamentally important if you want to be relevant in whether in travel tourism or any aspects of your life. So learning and development or upskilling is a key to your thing. Like for giving my example, I started my career as a practice kind in the taxation side, going into appeals and all such kind of things, then later on moved into a finance side, but now I do totally a technology side of the business. But how? That you need to keep on upskilling. In a simple way, if somebody wants to ask me, that means how to shine out, take a onus, lead a change, and just rethink and claim your shine. Thank you.
A very good afternoon to you all, and thank you for inviting me. I'm a part of this very august panel over here. And actually, much that I was sort of copiously writing notes over here, but everything seems to have been said already. So I'm wondering what is the next best thing to say. But really, I think a question that I continuously ask myself when I think about creating your sunshine is, why do I wake up every morning? And I think that's really fundamental to who I am as a human being. At the core of it, all of us have this need to do something, to have a purpose, that we want to be able to create a difference, to leave a legacy, create an impact. And I think metaphorically in my mind, that's how I would translate creating your sunshine to be. Of course, it's easier said than done. There's a whole lot of ingredients that go into living the life that one believes is one's purpose. What is it that really, what's the courage that I show up with every day? What's the conviction that I show up with every day? What's the belief that I have? There are so many naysayers who are going to be around me who will always question what I am doing. And there's also, of course, my own self-doubt and my own, fear of, that imposter syndrome that somebody like me suffers tremendously from. And I still have to overcome that. And I often say this, that, more often than not, we end up being the ones who are standing in our own way. We actually become our biggest stumbling blocks. And if you're able to get a view of that and find a confluence with who we really are, and what our purpose is, and what's the legacy that we leave behind, I think that creating the sunshine sort of follows a lot more organically than really having to put in. Of course, we all have to put in effort, so don't get me wrong, but I think it sort of comes in a lot more seamlessly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Yeah. So thank you so much for having me on this panel. It's really wonderful to be a part of this one. Thank you so much. It's a great privilege for me to be on this panel in this august gathering, and I really, really appreciate the fact that I'm part of this. When it comes to creating your own sunshine, for me, it's really, when I think back on my journey, I started off actually as an educator. I was teaching in a college, and then I went on to do my MBA. And after doing my MBA, it was a natural progression to get into the corporate sector. But I decided actually otherwise, and I decided not to go into the corporate sector despite doing my MBA from a top school in the UK, because it was, they say, chaska lag jata hai. Education ka chaska lag jata. So I was really, really, kind of fascinated by that, and I went back into education. And my journey has been as an educator for a very long period of time. And I think as an educator, it's when you talk about creating a sunshine, it's about spreading knowledge. Knowledge dispenses darkness. The ignorance of darkness is what really is dispensed or gotten rid of my knowledge. And when I'm thinking about it as creating your own sunshine, really what is very important is about lighting that spark in your students and learning from them. And knowledge is, I think, the only thing that you can share with others and never have less of. You only gain more, because when you share knowledge, you gain more. So spreading sunshine is, for me, all about seeing that spark in other people's eyes and lighting your own spark, and then moving on to upskilling on yourself, for yourself on a regular basis, so that you're never ever held back. And different aspects of the world is changing so rapidly, because everything that you learn today is obsolete tomorrow. So you have to continuously be on this journey of learning. And for me, that is really about spreading your sunshine in today's world. And I think it's very, very important that we, look at how we're going to be able to do this. And today, as I stand here, I'm part of a corporate for the first time in the full scale. So I've moved away from education into corporate, into learning and development on that front. And that's where I'd like to be able to continue spreading in different ways sunshine that we are all creating on a continuous basis. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just felt like I was sitting in my living room early in the morning with my wife and mom talking and giving me the energy booster for the day of creating the same sunshine. I think there is not a day when either of them are not telling me all this. They give me the power, the boost, the knowledge, and it's everywhere. It's not whether it's your mother who's more experienced over so many years, or your spouse who knows how you've been working, how you've been doing things over the current scenario, but this is something similar that, all of us have to be, all of us have to imbibe into all these characteristics to have our way forward and create our own sunshine. My first question will be to Nandita ji. Being a part of the government, do you feel you got the right opportunity to create your own sunshine by adding your views and implementing the progressive reforms in your work culture?
Yes, my answer to your question is to a large extent yes. I have not really faced any kind of gender discrimination or any less empowered in the government by being a part of that sector. But at times I do feel that we women ourselves hold ourselves back. There are, when you're working in a very big department like income tax, you have the opportunity of working in various, I wouldn't call it department, but then we have various sections. You can say you can be part of assessment, vigilance, and there's so many internal, control mechanisms where you can work. But then there are also very challenging posts where you work, and many a times, and personally, I have myself withdrawn from being given an offer to work in a very sensitive post, because I felt my son was in class 10, my daughter was also, had just come back from US after my master's in Duke University. So I myself refused to take that assignment, which I think a male would not do. He will not think of these things, and he would go ahead and take up the challenge. But we ourselves hold ourselves back, many a times, which I have learned, and probably I'll pass it on to my daughter and the other women whom I interact with, that not to do that. You have to seize every opportunity that comes your way, and you have to prove yourself that, because internally with that sincerity, devotion and knowledge, I think we can do it. But still, because we are from a patriarchal society, we think in terms of family first, and we think as mothers we are more responsible for the family than the father. That is the way we are brought up and we think. But that should not be the way of thinking. The mindset must change, not just for men, but even for women. So in the department, I have not really faced any kind of discrimination, because in government, when it comes to salary, when it comes to promotions, everybody is equal. There is no discrimination in terms of your perks or your salaries or your promotions. Nobody can outshow you in that. But when it comes to assignments, I think there are two things that are needed. One, that we ourselves as women should be ready to take up very challenging assignments, even though at the cost of sometimes compromising on your family. But the other partner is always willing to support you when you take up those challenges. And the other aspect is that when we are put in very sensitive positions by our choice, then we should not leave any stone unturned. You know, we have to then prove that we are equally good and we can do it. So that is how the government functions, and that is what my experience has been.
Thank you so much. Moving on from taxation to private corporate sector and something related to technology from the travel industry. My question to Sandeep ji will be, being an integral part of the travel and tourism industry, what in your views will technology help in enterprising women grow beyond utilizing the technology, be it a startup or for any futuristic goals, and how can we use technology to take things forward?
So I want to cover this particular thing in a three-pronged approach to smart women or entrepreneur women or even to everyone over here. So first, adopt to the latest technology to automate your processes so that you can efficiently utilize your time toward more productive work. Number two, build a capability in your team and enable them with the technology so that they are getting future ready. Number three, create an environment which can create a trust and that to a sustainable model from a long-term perspective. Whatever the changes are happening across you from a technology perspective, I'll not get into more deep into especially a travel technology point of view, but whatever the changes are happening around you, please adopt to them. Because changes are not going to stop for you. It's bound to happen and you have to adopt to the technology. So, as much as you can reduce your own workload by automating the processes and keep on utilizing your time toward more productive stuff and that to a more from futuristic point of view. That's a key for anyone to survive.
Thank you so much. My next question would be to Dr. Khanna. You have been personally involved with women empowerment across avenues. What potential do you see for women in rural areas to pursue and enhance their focus, especially towards tourism?
Thank you. I think it's a very important issue that you raised about women in rural tourism because like my esteemed panelist said, change is happening, you can't avoid it. And in COVID, the entire tourism industry has changed. And we have to accept it for the next 5 to 10 years, things are going to be like this. There are going to be waves coming and going. People don't want to, I won't say don't want to, but they are avoiding air travel, preferring not to go by air if they can drive. So road travel has become very popular. And due to road travel, a lot of, in the morning session also there was talk about homestays. Now it's all very hunky-dory for the government to say there should be homestays here, encouraging these clusters here. But my ground level experience has shown that all the women, whether women, families, I mean, in large number of states in India, in the hill states, men have come to the cities. So they're all female-headed households. They want to increase their income. Women are agriculturals, laborers, and I'm going to use the word entrepreneurs. I want to debunk this theory in the morning. They said if you're working in the field, everyone's getting it, but they're not. In the fields, in rural area, women get less. If you're a widow, you get lesser. And if you are from a lower caste, you get the least. I mean, let's accept the realities and move forward. So I feel as a tourism industry, what you should do is that develop some homes, if it's possible, because people want to stay in homestays, but they want nice, neat, clean. Maybe youngsters are exploring, adventurous, they're going with families, even their dogs. So all these homestays in rural areas are very environment friendly, very sustainable, but you know, we need to give what the tourist wants. So if some houses could be developed, and around that then there can be the cluster of handicrafts, and there's been talk about heritage trails, because like in Kota Loria Sari, everyone's heard of Careful. Every house has a room. It's the most fascinating and exciting experience. So we need interlinkages. It's not only homestays, but then you have to have the craft development, you have to have some sale point. Only then will that rural area come up or the rural women will come up? So I mean, this is my view.
No, a very practical view and not a theoretical view that you have taken up right now. So I think that is more important for us to still maintain that there are gender biases, there are social barriers, there are social differences still, and yes, that is one of the key important points that all of us need to take forward as well. My question to Ms. Sonia would be, talent versus training. What is your view and which is important and why?
So, as the question is for talent versus training, I don't think there's really a debate there about talent versus training. It is really about, the way we used to look at training earlier and education earlier. It was about the cookie cutter approach. We had a curriculum, we designed stuff, and we said this is what is to be delivered. You are an assembly line, you're going to go through this. Okay, one solution works for all. In today's world, I can't say somebody doesn't have talent. Everyone is differently talented. Okay? Each one has their own innate abilities. And therefore, education has to move away from the cookie cutter approach and be looking at nurturing the talent. So for nurturing this talent, it's very, very important that we re-look at education. And we're not educating people today only for employment, because when you educate them for employment, what you're doing is you're creating a job seeker. What we need to be doing, and as has been the general tenor in today's conversation, we have to educate people to also be entrepreneurial in their aspects. Because when you create an entrepreneur, you're really creating a job creator. Okay? And he or she, in this particular case, is obviously going to be looking at creating a lot many jobs for the community. And we need women entrepreneurs, or women entrepreneurs is what I would say. And for that, what education really needs to do is look at creating incubators and accelerators for these women in the travel and tourism space. Because education in its current format, the way it is just about, when we're looking at it, it's about skilling. But there's a lot more required in terms of being able to understand and sharing stories, what came up in the earlier panel discussion, weaving the entire, story around it. In the incubator, what you have to do is the 3 S's. First, you share stories. And sharing stories can be from the existing people, all the various women who will share their inspiring stories. And then there's a case study methodology, which is nothing but sharing stories. And by sharing case study methodologies, you inspire them, you spark them. That's the next S. You spark the ambition as well as you ignite ideas and creativity. So when you are doing that, you're going to actually get them to understand and emulate the other people's, experiences and come up with your own new ideas. After you've sparked that, then you need to support and mentor them. That's where the industry, everybody sitting out here, everyone who's working in the travel and tourism and hospitality space, they need to be mentors in an academic format and come up and help students to be actually actualize their entrepreneurial ideas. Because I find a lot of entrepreneurial ideas are there, but they do not have direction, they do not have support from the industry to make them into a reality. And education today should be looking at that and not really debating between talent and training, but combining the two of them to work. And women need this in a big way, because there are so many issues around women participating in the travel. We've spoken about safety, but if the woman itself is the entrepreneur, she will be taking care of the safety issues, she will be taking care of sanitation, and her perspective will be there in her business plan. And that's when women entrepreneurs can really exceed and succeed in today's world. So I think that's really where we would take the talent and training and put them on either sides of the same coin, rather than debate on whether talent or training works.
Thank you, Sonia. But I'd like to add something. Where our esteemed panelist Aditi can also throw some light in terms of you come from a background where you are recruiting talent and providing talent solutions. So talent, education, training, the same thing applies. So given an opportunity, how do you dig out the diamond from the quarry?
Nothing. You saw me grab the mic, right? And
Yes.
that's why
You are ready for it.
So I just want to build on what Sonia just said. I think there are a couple of key nuggets over here in what she said, and I completely agree that it's not training versus talent. And I'm going to pick on an example of Navina ji a little while back, right? When she was being awarded, she did this little performance of her bhav from her Kathak training. Now, that's a beautiful amalgamation of her talent and her training. You cannot, it's not fair to take things in isolation. And I think very often we try to sort of compartmentalize them and say, you either have talent or we can train you. And very honestly, I take exception to the word training. I don't think we should be training people. We're human beings. We come with a whole lot of intelligence. We have to enable people to find their sweet spots, because everybody is talented. That's what you said, right? There's so much talent that exists, and if we could just to bring it closer home, India is by far the most talent-rich country. I mean, you see the most CEOs of large corporates are Indians. We have the most favorable demographics, so to say. We're just way ahead of the curve. But I think what is really happening is I think to some extent our education system is doing a disservice to really harnessing that talent. Because we're focusing too much on skills and training. And I would think that it would be a lot better and more enriching if we really started to enable people to develop mindsets. And there's a very fine difference between the two. Because when we look at skills, when we look at training, you often start telling people, do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this. And we've all grown up listening to that. But that's not what people want. They really want to be respected for who they are, because they know that there is something that they bring to the table. So as people who are supporting, and as a person who's in the talent industry, I think that's one of the things that I really want to focus on. Can we really enable people to find what their sweet spot is? If you can tell them why it's important, the famous Simon Sinek words, if they know why they're doing what they're doing, they all have intelligence to figure out how they need to do and what they need to do about it. So I think it's really about zooming in on that enablement and really those mindsets, right? Now, you talked about job seekers versus entrepreneurs, and I think my slight bit of a divergence to that, Sonia, with your permission, is that entrepreneurship is also a mindset. We can all be entrepreneurial even in the jobs that we do. Nothing stops us from being able to think of solutions and do things that haven't been done in the past. But I think we just always tend to conform and start to get constricted by statutes, by things that are established, that we're very fearful of challenging them. So I think those are my few things to build on what you said.
Can I just add one more thing? I think that was absolutely very, very relevant. Being entrepreneurial within an organization is all about being entrepreneurial. And I think that is what the entrepreneurial mindset is. It doesn't matter whether you're running your own business or you're working from someone, but you're creating something new. And the aspect that you spoke about, in terms of your sense of purpose, and if you look at Daniel Pink's book, The Drive, there's basically 3 things that you need to succeed and to be motivated in this world. One is you need mastery, so you really need to know what you want to do. The second is autonomy, which entrepreneurship gives you, because it gives you the ability to explore and do things your way. And the third is purpose. So if you have mastery, autonomy, and purpose, you can really, really reach new heights. And that's what education has to do. It has to be nurturing. And nurturing the talent in a person is what the job of education has to be today. And we have to be able to do this across sectors. So whether it is travel and tourism or any other sector, education's role is not about telling you what to do, about sticking to formats. It's about being able to nurture the person's innate abilities.
Very true.
Thank you.
Like you just said, I like your phrase that you use, igniting the power within them, encouraging them. That basic education, I guess, is something that will help them empower themselves to have an ambition to grow further. I think that is something more that is required. Yes, the education system is different today, but at the same time, a basic education is required to boost up your thought process. I think that's more important.
And I think that would be education.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Otherwise, we're not really educating people.
And you need to train is to just have a path, lay a path, so that the thing that sunshine is created on its own, because just laying a path through training.
Yeah,
Just polishing the stone.
Just to add one more angle to this, if you really look into what we're teaching in colleges or engineering institute today, means the students are educated for something which will not be there when they get into the job. Means what education is basically doing? It's basically igniting their mind, creative, all such kind of things. Means nobody knew that. Means from a technology perspective also. Today there is a huge demand of, like, in our world, Java still sets with a huge demand, but tomorrow it will not be. But students are learning Java today. So, but what basically it's doing, it's igniting their mind to be prepared for a future unknown, uncovered territories.
Education has to actually focus on cognitive flexibility, not on domain knowledge. Domain knowledge will get obsolete, and education really has to look at creating critical thinking, cognitive flexibility, collaborative abilities, and all those, those are character skills that need to be created.
It can be a catalyst to move forward.
Yes, but domain knowledge is not really that important in today's world.
Or maybe the hygiene, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the bare minimum, right? Yeah.
Please, please.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said, because in the context of gender, each woman is unique. And we have to see her separately, and we have to create that opportunity for her to bloom and blossom so that we can, give her warmth and she can create her own.
Thank you. Panita ji, you've been an achiever, so we'd like to hear from you the experiences that you faced, your experiences on the challenges that you faced to accomplish and achieve your sunshine. So if that can help the women to achieve more and take things forward.
So I think to achieve anything in the media world, there are three things that are most critical. And it's communication, communication, communication. Basically, you have to communicate with your customer, you have to communicate with your client, and you have to communicate with your colleagues. These are the three essentials that you have to be able to run a good media organization. Now, communicating with your consumer, earlier it was just a written word that we were using to communicate with the customer. But today, the most important thing is the digital platforms, the social media. So a person really needs to be digital savvy to succeed in the media world today. You have to be very innovative, and anybody who follows anything in social media knows that it changes literally on a daily basis. So it means that you have to be on your toes 24/7. You have to know exactly what is happening in the world and give the customer what they're looking for. Then I said communication with your clients. Communication with your clients means that you have to give the client, in the sense that you can't just go take the business and forget about them tomorrow. You have to build that trust. And I personally feel if you build trust with the consumer, you will never lack business ever. So it is being able to give responses, build up trust, and business will follow automatically. And then the third thing that I can never overemphasize is communication with your colleagues. You have to have a certain chemistry, a certain communication with your colleagues. And a happy workforce is always a successful workforce. So these are the three things I feel that are really critical. If you achieve that, there is no way that you won't succeed in any industry. Media particularly, I would say. And that's it. I mean, like, you communicate in all aspects of life, and there's no way you will not succeed in any business.
Thank you so much. My next question would be to Nandita ji. In your view, how should women create their independence financially, and in terms of taxation, the skill as well as the profession that you are in? Are there any special tax exemptions, benefits for women entrepreneurs, for women tax assessees? Some benefits for women on the taxation side.
to answer the first question, that is, how should women become financially independent? So financial independence in women can be categorized in two ways. One is the homemakers. Even they can become financially independent if they are able to save in a better way and make investments out of those savings. They can have earnings and they can be financially independent. The other is when you are working and you are earning some income out of that work that you are putting in, the efforts that you are putting in. And with that income, you become financially independent. But that kind of financial independence has more benefits because then you are also, by working, you are getting an exposure, you are learning so many other things, you are also looking into the health care of the family, the education of your children, you're also contributing to the GDP, and in many ways you are able to, by being financially independent, you are able to do that. But the requirement per se, as we all panelists have agreed at some point or the other, is education. I mean, if parents are willing to give the basic education to their children and are able to identify that area of interest and ignite that sense of, achievement in them, then I think the women and girls will work and they will become financially independent. And coming back to the income tax per se, whether there are any benefits for women, let me tell you that Income Tax Act per se is gender neutral. It does not give any particular benefits to women as such. Maybe around 10 years ago we did have some slab rate differences where women were paying little lesser tax than the men. But we have done away with that almost 10 years ago. And now we have other incentives which apply, which are gender neutral, which apply to everybody. So the latest I would say on income tax front is the push that has been given by the Honorable Prime Minister and his government on startups. As you all must have heard, startup is the new norm. And many a times I hear, my friends' children and my colleagues whose children have been working in very good organizations, very renowned organizations, but later on you hear, okay, my son has left that job, now he's joined a startup. Because startup is having its own benefits as far as income tax is also concerned. So what is a startup? We have heard this term so often. A startup doesn't mean that you just sit back at home and you start a business and you become a startup. That is not a startup because you have to be, for income tax benefits, you have to be first recognized as a startup. And that recognition is done by Ministry of Commerce and Industry, where you have this department called Department of Industry and Internal Trade. That is where the startup has to first go to, to tell them, look, there are certain criteria that they have to fulfill, and that is how they are recognized by that department as a startup. Only then you can claim certain benefits under the Income Tax Act. So I will not go into the details of the procedure because I can give you the reference if anybody is interested, that there is a notification issued in the Gazette of India by Department of Industry and Internal Trade. This is of date 19th February 2019. So this will give you the entire procedure of how to get yourself registered, how to get yourself recognized as a startup, because you must have for a startup, you must be, for income tax purposes, you should have started your business after 1/4/2016. You should have a turnover of at least 100 crore. You should not exceed that turnover, sorry. You should not exceed that turnover of 100 crore. The moment you exceed, then you fall out of the category of a startup. So these are the basic criteria that you have to fulfill, and the business that you are about to take up in the startup should be of innovation. It should be of change, that you want to bring in the processes, in the products, in the services, the changes you want to bring in these categories, or a business that is going to generate a lot of employment or a lot of wealth. That is the category of startups, and for that you have to convince that particular department by submitting a form, making your elaborate submissions on what you are about to do, and then they probably recognize you as a startup and they refer the matter to the CPDT, that is our apex body, for giving you those benefits. So as far as income tax is concerned, the benefits are covered under section 80 IAC. This is the section for startups, because it gives you it gives you a deduction of your entire profits 100%. Say if you have earned 5 lakhs as a startup, then you get deduction under the section of 5 lakhs. So you come at nil income. You do not, need not pay any taxes on your profits. So that is one benefit that you get. And this benefit is for 3 consecutive years out of 10 years that you are going to be a startup. Your startup is for 10 years. You can hold on to that category for 10 years, and for any 3 consecutive years, you can claim that deduction. So why any 3 years? Because in the initial years, you may not be earning profits. You may be investing a lot, in your plant and machinery and other things. So you may not earn profit. So we have given you that leverage of, any 3 years you can claim that exemption. And the other is your share capital. Normally, if you are issuing a share capital at a premium, then the premium is taxable. If your share value is above the fair market value, and whatever the excess amount is, that is taxable under Section 56 of the Income Tax Act. But for startups, you are exempt if your turnover is around 25 crores. So this is the basic knowledge I have, and I am sharing with you on startups, because many people want to do business, they want to make a start. So income tax does give you that boost, and you can always refer to these sections for more clarification, and also to the notification that I have just mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I think we need one more special session towards this to help all entrepreneurs, Sandeep ji, you've been a part of the corporate culture over the years. There is still a classification in terms of what a man can do and what a woman can do. So, with your decades of experience, what do you advise that to men as well as to women, which shall help them to create their sunshine and that can be achieved?
So first let me tell you, woman is a powerhouse of strength and resilience. Okay. Let me complete that. You will agree with me. Yeah, but yet that is being misinterpreted as a weakness. And I believe, especially from a woman point of view, they play different roles. Whether we start with a daughter, mother, spouse, employee, manager, leader, whatever you call it means, and they play that role so diligently. That's a new idea about it. Now, since we're talking about men and women both, so there was a survey which has been done last year by Boston Consultancy Group, BCG, on 1,700 companies across 9 countries. India was inclusive of that. On a diversity and inclusivity, the companies where the leadership was well diversified and inclusive, their innovation was up by 19% in comparison to other companies. So that's clearly demonstrates that how the diversity and inclusivity is so important. Now, as far as from a development point of view or whatever we do, as I said earlier also, the fundamental most important thing in organization is any corporate, we debated about employees, entrepreneur or this thing, and I strongly believe that that's a belongingness of an organization is fundamentally first important thing. But the most important thing is investment into your own employees on a regular basis. As I said earlier also, upskilling from time to time is fundamentally important for any business. And there is no age limit for upskill your talent. There is no age limit for learning and development. There is no age limit for when you become a leader. Ma'am, I just want to take one point from you, this thing, when you said about your posting and the women have decided. So that reminds me, Indra Nui, one of the interview where she said that unfortunately or fortunately, the woman career clock and biological clock are totally in conflict. Only the problem, they should not get killed with a guilt. And I think the most important thing that how to overcome out of that guilt, that's a more important thing. So just to add you, give you another dimension, like from our business point of view, any change management which need to be done in our business, we usually give it to the woman power. And there is a reason, because the resilience is the most important thing for any change management, whether you implement ERP or whether you implement any of the stuff, because there will be always any change, there will always a rejection, there always is an unacceptance to get into this thing. So, to cut short, I think upskill, investment into your learning and development, and updating your skills, and we remain as an entrepreneur or a belongingness in an organization. That's a fundamental thing.
Thank you, Sandeep ji. That got me a little serious on that note, but he started off in the jest, we took it off very well. Thank you. My next question will be to Dr. Khanna, as a legal expert and with various experiences that you might have come across over the years, and legally as well. What precautions should one take legally, be it as an employee or an employer?
That's an important question because, because when we use the word precaution, we're talking about security of women employees. And unfortunately, like in the morning, some people said the burden is on women, some said that we need to, the burden is in society. Delhi police says defense courses karo, learn karate. Unfortunately, the whole thing is due to our, I would say it has not been inculcated in the education system. Neither can I change my thinking today, nor can you change your thinking, nor can society change it. It has to change is intergenerational. It takes 10 years. So if gender sensitivity had been inculcated in the younger levels from 4 to 14, we would not be having so many problems. Every time there's a crime against women, everyone says, mindset badalna chahiye. Mindset koi laddu nahi ki aap khalo aur badle. Now, mindsets are so obvious because every time a man talks about women, they talk about the Manusmriti, or they say mother, sister, daughter. I mean, it's common. If you translate that in Hindi, it sounds like an abuse. But if a woman talks, she talks about her own experiences. She talks about how her aspirations. She just wants to be a human being and let her be. We do not want to be powerhouses. We just want to live our lives peacefully. So of course, because to increase the there's a need to protect the increasing number of women who are entering the workforce. We have the POSH Act, which all of you know about, the Sexual Harassment Prevention and Redressal Act, which is usually not being followed. So I just thought, if you would like me to expand about it, any organization with more than 10 employees has to have a POSH committee or an internal committee. I don't know to what extent in the travel industry it's being followed. It's usually not being followed. Even if it's being followed, sometimes they don't know what is the correct constitution of the committee. The committee has to be headed by a senior level woman. There must be 2 employees, and it's important to have an external member. So sometimes what happens, people say external member nahi mil raha. You have an NGO, have a professor everywhere, whether it's a tier 2 city or a tier 3 city, one is able to get a sensitive person. But what about the women who are in the workforce, who are working, let's say, small travel agencies? And there is a lot of exploitation, So for that, every district has to have a local complaints committee, in which is again headed by a senior level woman who is a social worker. And the law is very good because even in districts, every taluka nodal officer has to be nominated. Let's say a state like Odisha, where the districts are very geographically vast. If there are nodal officers, they will go to the women rather than women traveling to the headquarters. But it doesn't work. We've seen the laws don't get implemented. And as far as women are concerned, I feel that these are the precautions as an employer. It's important you should have the statutory compliance should be in place, penal consequences of sexual harassment should be displayed, you should have workshops, so to create awareness. It's not that kisi ko pakko. If you know there's a law, I'll not pick up someone else's thing because I'll be caught and I'll be considered a thief. So if there are more awareness programs on prevention of sexual harassment, people will be alert that my company is conscious towards women's security and the probability of a misappropriate or a misadventure will not, or someone making an unwelcome gesture will not occur. Sometimes it is a communication gap. Because being brought up, like we said, in a patriarchal society, if you say chal coffee ke liye chal, you may think the girl is from Delhi, she'll just refuse. Maybe if she's from a small town, she'll get scared. And she'll take it as a sexual harassment. And so it's also sometimes a communication gap. So also, there was, I think in some organization, there were some rules that had come out for women, and then the whole community went kind of got very vibrant about it, that why are women being asked to do what they do? But I think as human beings, we all need to be careful, men and women. And even women need to be taught which is appropriate behavior. Because maybe in college we have this back slapping kind of stuff. I mean, a girl does it, a boy does it. But in the workplace, this is not acceptable. So I think these are through regular, if you're a large organization, through regular training. If you're small, maybe district collectors has no time for it. So I'm sure he won't do it. But maybe you could just talk to your employees on it and create an awareness.
Thank you so much. I'd like to have a common question between Nandita ji and Sonia, one coming from a government sector and one from the private sector. To create your own sunshine in your present workforce and present work environment, what are the positive changes that you would be desiring?
So I think at my current place, in terms of when I'm looking at the organization, we have a very, very evolved learning and development program out there and a department. But I'm looking at it in a broader sector in terms of in private spaces. I think what is very, very important, and to further the cause of travel and tourism and entrepreneurship, women entrepreneurship in travel and tourism, we definitely need to look at setting up incubators and accelerators. And like we have a very esteemed panel here, which is, you're talking about, Chalman, about, legal aspects. Then we've got the aspects of taxation being spoken about. Now, these are things that, all of us are benefiting from in a higher level setup. But when we are looking at education at the lowest of the lowest levels, this is the kind of expertise that we need. And we need the industry to collaborate with academia and education. And that's where we need to all be able to give back and try and, create an ecosystem in a formalized way. Because everybody wants to share their knowledge. We are all facilitators at the end of the day. We can't teach anyone anything. We are facilitators. And if the industry also collaborates with academia, collaborates to be able to give back, I think that's where we can make a big, big, big difference.
Thank you.
Yeah, coming back to the government sector and the changes, positive changes that one wants to see. In my opinion, the most important thing that needs to be done is that important departments need to be headed by women. If you see important posts, important departments, there are not many women who are heading it. So be it judiciary, be it any board, or be it any other ministry where there are very important roles to be played, these are mainly being a male domain. So a lot of emphasis has to be paid by the government to giving important posts to women, because I feel that women do have with their sense of sincerity, devotion, commitment, and acumen that they have, they will be able to do a lot of justice to these high-level organizations and bring about a major change. And it will percolate down, and it will help in growth of those organizations in terms of both men and women and creating opportunities, jobs, everything. So like my learned colleague just said, she said starting from the lower level. For me, it is the other way around. I feel where there is power, it should also be shared with the women, because they are the ones who will be able to actually use it, harness it, and bring a lot of positive change in the society.
Thank you. I agree with you completely. We are being harnessed over years, especially in Taai. With our president being at the helm of the affair, I think all the men are already harnessed.
I think it's very important what you said, because if a woman heads an organization, it sends the social message that women can do it. And it also gives the confidence not only to the women, but to the men who are going to, their wives or daughters.
True, true. One common question I think everybody would like to opine their views on. India today is called a developing nation. We say men and women are equal, they're shoulder to shoulder. Do you think this is a social change that is happening in India, or it is due to the education, skilling, overall development that we see this happening?
I think it's just because of technology. Young girls are saying we can do it. Nothing else. Nobody is encouraging them. It's just that they are getting empowered, they are going to digital media, they're seeing things happening, and they're saying we can do it and we will do it, and they're fighting the system, they're fighting their families, they're fighting society.
In my opinion, the generation next is very, very confident. Because probably things have changed over the years and they have been given that education. There's a reduction in gender bias also. So it is that confidence probably which is making them walk shoulder to shoulder with men. And now they have that sense of confidence that they can do it. They can break any glass ceiling and they can do it. So I think it is education is playing a major role, and also the way girls are being treated by the parents. That is playing a major role in how they're shaping up, as individuals and as powerful women.
Of course, in media, everybody knows it's very, very dominated by women. So I don't have anything to say on that, because for a long time, women have been very, very powerful in media, and it's going to continue. But of course, it's the encouragement and the education that's making a huge difference.
I would like to tend to agree with Charu ma'am. I think it's more of a digital or social media which is playing a role, significant role. But however, I think any nation which gets through a underdeveloped to developing nation, I think the government focus also keep on changing. And that's a way how the diversions are now, that's a focus area for a government also. Means unfortunately, we are talking about Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao. It's unfortunate that means after 50 years, more than that, we're still talking about that. But of course, with the digital and the social media campaigns, things are changing, and especially the more focus at the tier 3, tier 4 towns, where this whole digital thing has really changed that approach. That is making a difference. And also the corporates are also somewhere responsible, because being part of the corporate, I can say that means at Indigo, when we were hiring crew members, a lot of focus was, especially when Aditya was the president and CEO, he focused especially at girls from a tier 3, tier 4 towns. That's really bring a lot of changes. Aspirations keep on coming over there. I think overall, as a country, as a developing, that focus is coming. But why to only talk about women? I think we have a other set of people in these tier 2, 3 towns. I think overall as a country, we are moving into that toward a goal of a developed nation. I think that's a trend to happen.
I don't have a particular opinion on that statement. I think my only 2 bits is that if that's the narrative, and it works for us, so be it. I think it just needs to gain more and more of the crescendo and gain that much more momentum for everybody to start believing in it. So I think we just have to stop second guessing ourselves and say that whatever is happening is a movement, and let's just all build on that energy that's propelling or going to propel the nation into our next level of fitness.
So I'll just sum up actually whatever has been said, because everybody's really put across it's education definitely which is helping to change the narrative. We have the government which is doing its bit to change the narrative. The industry is doing so much more to change the narrative. The figures that we looked at about women's participation in the travel and tourism space, in the Indian context, it is 12.1% as per the WTTC report. But a travel and tourism organization like VFS Global, we have 58% women participation. So when we're looking at that, it's absolutely possible for industry to start doing it, education to start supporting it, government to support it, and the narratives can change completely as we go ahead. And there are many other factors which will come into play, but we have to all work together. It's all a consolidated, concerted effort by all these various players that we have to put together. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists, so much for the wonderful insight to get from your learnings, experiences, and the knowledge that you have over not the decades but over the years that has been developed. And I'd like to thank you all for being present, and just like you all to be seated, and I request my office bearers to come and hand over a small memento from all of us, and also our managing committee member, Mr. Anu.
भैया सुनो मेरी बात थोड़ा वाइड से करो काम इन्हें बुलाओ ना हाँ यार
Also request our past president Balbir ji to please come
थोड़ा वाइड से काम करना वाइड कर रहा हूँ हाँ रूम है आपके पास कोई डाउट नहीं ऐसा नहीं होता यार
So whoever the first, whoever in the middle, let's start.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Bro, कैमरा यार मान सकते हैं यार आप मेहनत कर रहे हो
पीछे आना पड़ेगा मैं वाइड करूँ
So when he said create, I said we went class together.
So one group.
That's just sound right.
पीछे थोड़ा सा कैमरा पीछे करो यार सही से
मुझे पीछे आया
भाई मैम पीछे आ जाओ आप भी पूरा ग्रुप जल्दी आएगा यार नहीं आता कैमरा आ रहा आपका कैमरा पीछे करना पड़ेगा
मैडम प्लीज रुकिए तुमसे 1 घंटे से कह रहे हैं पीछे जाओ पीछे यार पीछे आ थोड़ी मैम सुनते भी बहुत सारा
यस मैम यस कैमरा पीछे कर लो यार
तो स्टैंड तो कैमरा पीछे कर ले
May I request our honorary president, Mr. Srinath, to have a vote of thanks to you.
कनिष्क को पीछे आगे कर दे अरे रिकॉर्डिंग हो रही मत रिकॉर्डिंग हो रही क्या करो रिकॉर्डिंग हो रही फिर तेरी यार सबका काम ऐसे होता है यार रिकॉर्डिंग सील्ड मिलेगी तुम्हें सील्ड मिलती काम ही है मिलेगी तो सील्ड मिलेगी नाम बिजली उधर नाम आवाज अरे यार चल सील्ड मिलेगी तो मिलेगा वो कर
and our most valued invited guests, media, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, Taai, the entire managing committee, even special guests in the audience, we call it Federation of Tourism, and on my own behalf, extend a very
आना पड़ेगा मेरा एंगल ये आएगा ना फोटो का ये देखो ना अरे एंगल देखो ना कैसे है वो एंगल देखो मैं वहां से खींचूंगा तो साइड आएगी मेरे को पता नहीं है ना
we are sure that we will go a long way in the empower women with the opportunity to fulfill their economic and individual potential while growing in both travel tourism and hospitality industry. As said during the deliberations, he had wishes to support women in the industry as a facilitator, to make them equal stakeholders in the nation's development and recognize the noteworthy contribution made by them. With this, I would like to thank everyone associated with this
with Taai and Wiit for their support, cooperation and for attending to this session. And a special thanks to Pallavi Mehra, Gunjan Sabiti, Priyanka Saxena, Dr. Himanshu Dalwa and Taai Secretariat team. Thank you, and may I request you to please join for lunch.
Thank you everyone, and can you proceed for lunch please? And thank you for bearing for the extension of time by 20 minutes. But that's stretchable time and not much of it. Thank you once again.
एक बार राम भैया से मिल जाएगा
Congratulations.